Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Almond, please call the roll.
President Conley,
Here.
Director Emig, Director Hogan,
Here.
Vice President Kindig,
Here.
Director McKinney,
Present.
Director Meese,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
Director Whitmer, here, Director Wolverton.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you, Mrs. Almond, and we have a quorum. I want to thank the members of the public, staff, and faculty for being with us tonight. Welcome to May. This is the month of graduation, so the school year's rounding out. It's been a lot of work since the beginning of the school year back in last August, and it just rushes by. I know the students think otherwise, but certainly on this side of the house, it seems like it just flies by, and then it turns right back around into the next year so quickly. Our first presentation is from Mr. Guy Hassinger, the DEA BC President, the Eagles at the Next Level.
I think you guys have a slide. Be a lot easier if you could pull that up. There was an email sent.
All right. Yep, do we have the slide?
Okay.
Very good.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Guy Hassinger. I'm the current president of the Dover Athletic Booster Club. And this came to us sort of by accident. We were running some concession stand in the track, and I looked up and saw this beautiful display of all of our track stars who have gone on to the next level, what schools, their names, and I was like, wow, we should have that for all the other sports. What do we have to do? And they're like, well, you just got to do something. So I did it. Made a few phone calls, found out it's the folks that do this, it's Team Fits Graphics. They've been in business for 16 years. They've done over 33,000 projects. They're the ones that do the middle school now with updating the names, etc. So we made some phone calls. My wife and my team actually did most of the work. I'm just going to take a lot of the credit because it's easier. So we have approval by WellSpan to budget this, to fund this for us. So the best part about it, it's not going to cost the school district a penny. We are looking to go back 2 to 3 years, and you really can't see the scale there, but that's a 10 by 5. So we had to give them 13 names to get started. We're going to go back 2 to 3 years. Our goal is to have a 4-year span of kids who have gone on to the next level, the sport and the college that they have gone to. So that way, if you're a freshman coming into Dover, you get to see the seniors. Their names will be on that board while you're in school, and you can aspire to maybe get your name on this board. The location that we have picked out is perfect. The sign that we have is built for indoor. If you go into the cafeteria and you're looking at the gym, right above the ticket stand is a beautiful bare wall. So what the sign comes with, it's easy change, slide in and recorded strips. We want it up out of reach so people just can't go up and just grab names out. You got to get a ladder and, put a little effort into it. They're vibrantly printed graphics. They have a protective anti-glare. So even with the lighting when it's hitting it, you'll still be able to see the names. There will be no glare. It's sturdy. It's a PVC construction, and the mounting hardware comes with the sign. These guys are professionals, so they know exactly how to mount it. The total cost for the sign with the first 13 names was $3,747. We reached out to the folks at WellSpan, and they were gracious, as you can see their little logo on there, to foot that bill for us. The Booster Club will then take over for the year to year. So our minimum spend per year is going to be $92 on the amount of names that we add or every year. So the cost is going to be low. I've reached out to the CTE program. I thought this would be a great concept with obviously some supervision on getting the students to mount it. Thought that would be a good project. I did a hydraulic project with them 2 years ago, and it went pretty well. And that's pretty much it as far as what the Booster Club did for this sign. At a later meeting, I plan to come back and give you guys a year in review of what the Booster Club got involved in and has accomplished this year. It was a pretty good year for Dover Booster Club. So, any questions?
How are the nameplates applied? Are they vinyl decals or are they actually like plates that slide in?
Yes, there'll be plates that are engraved and then slide into
Okay.
the captions.
So it's 4 years?
That's our
rolling?
goal. We're going to start, obviously the first sign is going to be this year, but now we have to give them something to get the proposal. But Troy said he can work with me to get at least the last 2 or 3 years so we can put those in and fill up the sign. So the goal would be, so all the seniors, obviously this year on, so then next year would be next year's senior and you just kind of move them. We're looking at 5 slots there. So however many we can do, whether that's 3 or 4 years. I mean, if we have 20 kids going on to the next level, obviously that's gonna take some time away.
So these kids right here are probably the ones who have letters of intent as of today, but something could happen after the end of, let's say, track season and another person. Do you add those on? after
Actually,
that?
yes, we've already had that happen. We had like a brief Dover signing day, and we've already added 2 kids that weren't committed at that point. So it's going to be a constant evolving. Our goal is, at the end of the day, it still has to be $92 for them to make any names. They need a minimum. So,
Does this cover all sports?
yes. And that's why we want it not in the gym, but outside. So like even the folks that are going to swim can take a look and peek. And it's more for everybody entering the gym, and I want all the kids in the cafeteria to kind of look up and be like, look at all these kids that have gone to the next level playing sports in Dover. Sometimes we overlook our athletic program. I mean, it's not as important as academics, but it still builds character and things like that.
I think you've done a good job. I think.
With this sign?
Yeah, because.
I didn't do
because
any of it.
what
My
I'm
team
saying-
did.
well,
I'm just
you're-
taking the credit.
Well, you're taking the initiative to do something positive, and you're taking that initiative to get this thing done. I know that when we were looking at a track sign, it took a while before someone actually took that initiative to, I don't know, raise the money or how it got paid for, but that was always a barrier. So somebody had to have contacted WellSpan and make it happen. So kudos to you if you did.
Oh, I'm going to take all the credit, but I did not. But I don't know if you know me that well. I'm a pretty positive person.
You are.
Any more questions? So it looks like a 4 to 6 week period. It'll be probably here June or July. Depending on staffing and stuff like that, it probably won't get hung up till next year.
So moving forward, is the Booster Association assuming responsibility for
Yes.
updating it?
Yep.
And with cooperation from the athletic department? Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's about a year, right? Not too long.
Do you think it would be beneficial to add their graduation year on the tag?
Well, that's not we're still tweaking that. This
Okay.
was just so yes, we're kind of, and we're also debating, do we want to do an Eagle and then a Dover, an Eagle and a D? We have options. This is the rough draft and this is the final cost for the first ones. But as far as the letters go, we can add what we want to that plate, but you don't want it to get too busy
Sure.
because then you'll miss the important part, which is the name.
You could even do just a plate that says 2025 and then put the names below.
It's not
If you have
impossible.
enough space.
Kind of like we do with the banners.
Yeah.
I will say that the fact that WellSpan's involved, we have had conversations here on funding projects by getting someone to advertise, like our banners for our fields and things. So this is kind of superseding that because their logo obviously is there, and that's probably why they're funding it.
Correct. Sometimes all you have to do is ask. They can only say no.
And in terms of the logo, you might want to check with Mr. Perkins, but I think we do use the D for athletics. And then the eagle tends to be for other things. You can certainly put whatever logo
Right.
you want, but if you are having trouble deciding between the two, it's the D with the claw that we tend to use for athletics.
Normally, I would have that chain on right now, but I didn't think this was the setting for it, so
I've seen, yeah.
yes. Anything else, guys? I didn't want to hold you up. I know you got a busy schedule. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your efforts.
Good work. I love it.
Thankless job you guys have, so
Thank you, Mr. Hassinger. Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, we recognize Mrs. Miranda Weaver, now our CFOO, for our budget presentation.
So to start out, the changes since April, which is what I do every month. I know from the discussion with the board that because we had medical and retirement savings, that was removed from the savings cut list and just taken right off of the preliminary expenses. So there, obviously, that's the adjusted number. So then what I did from listening to the discussions and the options, I put in a 0% tax increase 1 and 2, and then I adjusted the cuts and savings to the 173, which is minus the medical and retirement savings, and also reduced it in half. So you can see that there's obviously fund balance used with no cuts, fund balance used with 87,000 in cuts, and the 173 in cuts. I also brought, this is a slide that I did show in my earlier presentations this year, but because of the fact that the 1 and 2% were discussed last month by the board, I wanted to bring it back around. We also recently got the homestead farmstead numbers. So I also wanted to point out that 97% of Dover homeowners right now are reflected in this chart. So of the 6,386 homestead farmsteads, there are only 193 properties that are above 250,000. Now again, this is assessed value, not sale value. I also showed this earlier, but I wanted to, again, since we're talking about a possible tax increase, if we increase the millage for just 25-26, the difference of 1%, we would get an additional 1.5 million, and 2% is approximately 3 million. Just some information for recent commercial and residential assessment data. Wobble was valued at $1.5 million. In order to fund the deficit we currently have, we would have had to have had 65 Wawas built during this fiscal year. We would have had to have 57 move-in storages. And we would have had to have 545 homes just in this fiscal year to fund the difference. Well, we see the homes being built, and we see the sale prices, which the average is approximate $362,000. The assessments are only coming in at about 181, which is 50%. That's even lower than it used to be. It used to be about 65 to 70%. However, sale prices are dictated by market, and assessments are dictated by how many bathrooms you have, how many bedrooms you have, is your basement finished, do you have a pool, do you have a patio? So there is a very big discrepancy right now between assessed value and home values. So I just wanted to give you the information for you to deliberate.
All right.
Or
Any
ask questions if you want to ask questions too, yes.
All right.
What is the increase in the homestead, farmstead?
I want to say it's approximately $40 to $50. It's in that range. When I go back and sit down, I can get you an actual number, but I believe it's $40 to $50.
So keeping that in mind, looking at your chart with a 1% tax increase, on $200,000, it'd be a $49 change, but that would be completely canceled out by the farmstead homestead increase, correct?
Yes, they were very, it
To
was,
be a
it's-
net zero.
yeah, it was significant last year and it was pretty significant this year. So the assessed, the homestead farmstead value assessment went from, I want to say 12,360 to 14,440, which does equate to about the $40 to $50.
Okay. That's good to know.
And we also actually saw a reduction in homestead farmsteads as well, which means that that distribution goes to everybody else. So everyone got a little bit more than they would have if it had been last year.
You have questions, comments?
I just, if you don't mind me commenting. The last slide, when it talks about how many homes would need to be built, I know you're looking at just the purpose of revenue there. I don't know, I just feel like maybe including that statement could send a message that we need a lot more homes built in our community, and I feel like we would overlook the idea of how that would impact the district cost-wise, so. I don't know if that was a benefit.
No, it really was just to give, you hear a lot of discussion
Yeah.
about the fact that there's a lot of building,
Yeah.
but we're not seeing the impact on the taxable assessment. So this was just to give you a very basic understanding that the homes that are being built they're not going to fund the deficit.
You are absolutely right, because more homes would be more children.
Yeah.
Right. So that, it was really just a comparison, something
Revenue,
for people to
yeah.
wrap their mind around.
Yeah.
We are absolutely not recommending the
No,
building of
no.
547 homes.
No,
Per year.
yeah,
That was just to put in perspective of
exactly.
the impact of 87 homes. It's really not that great of an impact as far as the budget we're looking at, the deficit.
What are the proposed number of homes to be built in Dover Township in the next 8 years?
I was working with Mr. McLucas, but we have not had a chance to touch base.
I did. 1,500.
And they will come with children.
Unfortunately. Many of
I
them
think
will.
that's fortunate. I
Eh,
love
depends how
children.
you're looking at it.
Yeah, but looking at Mrs. Weaver's math, that's over 8 years. That's nowhere near enough to cover our deficits going forward.
Depends what type of other industry and stuff comes in.
Yep, that's what we need.
What do you need? Because we have to approve something,
Yes.
right? Next
Yes,
week.
and you have to approve. So next week, it's preliminary budget approval next week. So what we need leaving tonight is we need a majority vote on what the board is willing to go with.
Or at least two options to vote on,
I wouldn't-
perhaps?
I
No?
wouldn't do
Okay.
that.
We need to decide tonight.
Yeah, you need to decide.
It's going to be a long night next week.
I have a question. So the expenses we were looking at chiseling down that were at 400,000, what's that number now that the administration came up with?
So we have two different numbers.
Yep.
I have the list in front of me. I don't know if you do, Mrs. Weaver.
No, I do
you want me
not.
to do this? Okay, so in the $87,000 worth of cuts, you are, let me go to the other page. You are looking at the removal of the pool robot cleaner, the removal of the lifeguard chairs. By removal, I mean removal from the budget, not from the facility. Savings by looking at our phone and internet budget, the uniforms, that we would put them on a longer cycle and just not purchase them for this year.
Actually, it was just, it was,
The
it would-
cheer.
it would be just the next step down. So the cheer would
Oh,
be that, but the
cheaper
uniform.
uniforms.
Cheaper uniforms, yes.
We would take $10,700 out of my professional development budget and a reduction of CTE travel by 55% in hopes that we can, that's $15,000 in hopes that we can use some Perkins. But that would, if we're using Perkins for travel, then we wouldn't be using it for equipment or other things. And that's where your $86,700 comes from. If we go into the 173, that's everything that was on that list before. reduction of grass treatment, reduction of tissues, removal of, well, I named the pool robot, the lifeguard, phone and internet, the digital announcements. If you've been through the high school and you see the TVs, either they go blank or we have to come up with a different way to put the announcements on there. The rental, the graduation equipment, a survey, a life track survey that we do for graduates, our Habitudes curriculum, which is our leadership curriculum, field trips and competitions, the marching band parade, some PE equipment, band and choral sheet music. The library book budget would be reduced. We've reduced uniforms budget, the live streaming for sporting events, again, the staff development, removal of scholastic news magazines, and reducing the solicitor to one board meeting a month rather than both. We're not reducing the solicitor, we're reducing his presence at the board meetings.
You're actually secretly hoping.
We see the smile.
So what we're looking for from the board is a recommendation on tax increase, no tax increase, fund balance, how much fund balance, and what level of reductions you want us to make.
And from what I recall, the 1% is 1.5 million, and no, 2. What's the revenue for?
Right up there. Oh, 297? When you say you, like what would the district?
296.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Any comments? Deliberation?
Well, I'd like to just start off with the easiest one to make a decision about is the reductions. We've already got the 227,000 in guaranteed reductions from the insurance and pensions, I believe.
Retirements.
Retirements, yep. So we're definitely going with them because they're happening. I'm not in favor of any additional cuts. They're pretty minimal, and to me, they're items that look vital or at least valuable to students and staff and teachers. So I'm not in favor of cutting any of those small line items out. It's not going to make much of a dent. So beyond that, I just need to make a decision on tax increase, and I want to be responsible with the fund balance because we have some big things coming in the future that we need to plan for. So I want to be responsible with the fund balance as we consider that tax increase.
So Rob, are you saying you're going with the 87,000 or the 173,000, or what are you saying? with the cuts?
Nope, 0.
Well, the administration's recommending 86, and like a pool robot's not needed.
Okay.
So it's going to go anyway, most likely. But they're just adding that to the deduction to give us some numbers. So.
Well, if you approve it, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's-
But from what I understood, the pool robot was something that needs maintenance, and it would cost more to maintain it.
You are
than-
right.
Yeah.
So we're
Yes.
getting rid of that because don't we already have one, or they're gonna? Yeah,
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, bottom line is I'm not in favor of cutting the entire list. If we're going to keep the 87,000, I'm good with that. But we had kind of gone through line by line and picked out the ones that were more vital to keep, and I think that's probably the ones I have in mind. So if we're keeping the 87, I'm there. But I do not want to cut everything.
I had asked a question through email about the uniforms.
Mhm.
You said there was some savings on the uniforms. We're going with less expensive uniforms.
That is correct, yes.
Yes, we have a couple different vendors provide specs on uniforms.
Can you come up? Yes. Thanks.
When we look at the athletic teams that are on the current uniform replacement cycle, we get a couple different vendors to provide specs on those, and what was originally put in the request was the ones that were cost more expense, had more expense to it. The savings would be to take the lower priced for that particular uniform.
And you might be sacrificing like fabric quality and that kind of thing, but nothing that would interfere with the safety of our students.
Correct.
So they may not last as long, but we're not going to skimp on our safety.
Right. And I do believe, if you can confirm this, the cheerleading extra, like the warm-ups, that was also removed. Yeah. Okay.
Dr. McKinney, you chaired the Finance Committee tonight, right?
Yes.
Resources Committee.
Yes.
And did you take a look at this as a committee and discuss it?
We did. We got into the discussion of the three of us directors that were there, Director Kindig, Director Wolverton, and I. We got into some discussion on which of these options we prefer and why. We did not come to a consensus on that, though. So I'll just repeat what I had recommended. Is I had gone with the minimal cuts, and as much as I would love to do a 0% tax increase, that's what I believe in, I think we need to be responsible with that fund balance, looking at the future items, litigation, we have some building expenses. We need to be responsible for that, not drain it too quickly over the next few years. So I was recommending a 1% tax increase and fund balance usage of right at $1.45 million. The good news is that we just learned a 1% tax increase on a $200,000 home. It's going to be net zero with that homestead, farmstead. So the taxpayers thankfully won't feel any effect of that. So that's a very minimal tax increase that I think just helps us preserve about $300,000 of that fund balance without draining that. I would love to be able to do a 0% every year. I don't think we're in a position to be able to do it every year.
Sit down if you want to. If you want to sit down, you probably do that while we all just talk.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Go
and
for
then
it.
we'll bring you back up if we have questions. Thank you, just so you don't have to stand there. You just stay there if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, ideally, I'd love a 0% every year, but I don't think we're in the position fiscally to be able to do that every single year. Doing this very minimal 1% tax increase that's not going to be felt because of the homestead, farmstead increases, I think that's the safest option to take. And as far as the $1.45 million that we projected to take out of the fund balance, there's a good chance, like this funding year, that we will not use all of that. It won't be that large of a withdrawal. And there's also an additional chance that the state budget could provide up to maybe $900,000. So we might not even have to use anything out of the fund balance with my option. So that's where I am, just a very safe 1% tax increase that won't be felt and preserving as much of the fund balance as we can without cutting any vital projects or materials or opportunities for students.
As far as the rest of your committee, did they have a separate opinion? Were you split three ways or?
I think Director Kindig, he can speak for himself, but I think he was open to my option. Director Wolverton was quiet, so I'd like to hear what he has to say.
I'm in favor of a zero tax percent increase and cutting 227 out of the 400, and cut also the 173,473. I think we need to watch the fund balance based on both state and federal funding, which will be in the future. I have as I've said before, with Trump getting in office, eliminating a large portion of the Department of Education, pushing funding down through into the states, as he said he would do. We have no idea what we're going to come up with. We get a large amount from the state, from the federal government, either way here in the near future, we put it right back into the fund balance. But for right now, take it out of the fund balance. to add on to what Mrs. Weaver has done, again, as I told her personally, I think she does an excellent job. I did go over with the Dover and IDIC committee that I'm on. I spoke to the township, and they are looking at 1,500 homes in the next 8 years by 2032. So that's a realistic figure. We are looking at 98 homes being purchased or being built out there right now, just so you guys are aware of it. And that's all I have. You know, the bottom line to it is, yeah, I'm not in favor of raising taxes.
All right, thank you, Director Wolverton. Director Kindig, do you have any problem sharing your opinion on this?
I'm on the fence on this whole thing. I'd love to go another year with no tax increase. We have the EIT Tax Commission working. We're not sure where that's going to end up. That could be a positive for us, but again, that would not, if we would approve it, it's got to go on the ballot in November. So it would be next fiscal year that we'd even start thinking about what that might mean. So the fact we increased the farmstead by 40 to 50, pushed me a little bit closer to where Director McKinney is, as far as maybe a 1%. That would be, for most of the people, it would be a zero increase with the farmstead offsetting it. But I'm really wrestling with this one.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the cuts? What was your
I
position on the cuts?
did not talk about the cuts. For me, the 227's a given. The uniforms, I'd asked about the uniforms. I know we want to keep the kids in good uniforms, but I just think we need to be very conscious of the cost of those, and if we can get another year or two out of uniforms, let's do it, rather than spend the extra money on that. But the rest of the cuts, I'm not in favor of doing the rest of the cuts at this point in time. I just don't see the savings. I think we're at a point we either take the money out of the reserve fund, or we increase taxes, or we do a little bit of both. So I'm in 227 on the cuts, and that's it.
Yeah, as far as the cuts go, we had this discussion in the Resource Oversight Committee. We did across-the-board cuts last year in order to not raise taxes with every department. And the staff, the department heads are doing a phenomenal job. They are still into this year cutting 10 to 12%. They're saving 10 to 12%. So they have taken on they bought into a mentality of trying to be responsible and save us money, and they're doing an amazing job. So that's something that we're seeing have fruits rolling forward every year. A lot of these small cuts, we're down to cuts like tissues now. So it's tough to just keep searching for things to cut like that. I mean, they're very minimal. So I'm not in favor of these tiny little line item budgets. If it's something that the students need, field trips, was it Scholastic or, resources for the teachers, I think they need to have them, because when we start getting down to cuts that deep, it's going to start affecting the education, the ability of teachers to do their jobs. So I'm with Director Kindig. We have a mentality of saving money that we've got rolling forward now. They're doing a good job. I think we're good with the cuts we made last year. As far as it's going to be tough to find anymore, is basically what it comes down to.
Did you get any input from the administrators on the committee?
Other than some nods, no, but I'm hoping they're on the same page that they don't want any vital items cut.
Not that you're going to out right now, because they'll probably get in trouble if they said cut the budget more, right? Okay, well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I will tell you that we did work as an administrative team to come up with this list. So nothing on this list is a surprise to them, and in fact, some of these were their suggestions, knowing that we had to come up with a figure.
Okay. Very good. Who else wants to venture? Director Hope?
So I want to add my comments. I'm in alignment with McKinney for the most part. I feel like so many times we try to make decisions when we get input from our administration, our staff, who to me are the experts into the decision making. And I feel like the 86,000 is the number that's not vital. They're already keeping another 10,000 that they want, that they say is vital. So I'm gonna take their expert advice and say we can cut $86,737. And let's just go back to the uniforms. If you have kids who are in sports and they're wearing a jacket and the zipper's broken because you're trying to save money and it's raining outside, their underclothes are getting wet because they're outdoors, and then they're gonna get sick. So there's a reason why we need uniforms. It's not just for looks, it's a protective barrier for the kids in sports. So it's very important that we fund athletics the way they should be funded. I'm for the 1% and the 87,000, which puts me in the 1.459 fund balance usage.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Venture? Director Miller.
Well, I came to this meeting knowing that I'd probably have rotten tomatoes thrown at me because I was thinking a 2% tax increase because of so many variables out there. We don't know about the tech school being built. We don't know about York Learning Center. They're going to eventually be built. So looking down the road, I see there's possibilities of big increases coming our way, and I don't want to have to make a big tax increase in the future. So I was thinking, well, let's go moderate with a 2%. So we're prepared, but listening to experts, I'm thinking, well, okay, we can go with the 1%. I would definitely say the 87,000 cuts. You've kind of given us that those are things that we can cut. We're all cutting things in our households. We're all cutting things right now. So we have to, as a district, we're a business, we have to be able to make those cuts as well. It's not easy. I don't want them either. And so I guess I've changed my opinion from the 2% to the 1% with the $87,000 cuts using the fund balance. You know, I'm just hoping that our state government and our federal government come through and surprise us and do the right thing and help us. But we don't know that, and that's what really scares me. There's so many variables in this budget, and I don't like variables. So I guess I'm going with the 1% now, though.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Amick wants a 0% tax increase. He told me to share that with you guys.
Okay.
If I recall, he also didn't want any of the cuts, though, and have it all come out of fund balance.
Correct.
Yeah, he
Everything
also
comes
said
out
no
of cut
cuts.
balance.
$0 cuts.
So Director Miller, that was my mentality, and when I had decided on a 1% cut, is that I don't want to get to the point of, we can have a 0% every year. That's ideally what we would want.
That's what we all want.
But we may come to a point where we find ourselves needing to do what other school districts are doing right now and putting a maximum tax increase. There's a lot of schools doing 5% or more right now, and I do not want to do that to our citizens. A 1% right now that's going to be negated by the farmstead homestead increase is going to help us out just a little bit, but it's going to also, I think, and I hope, prevent us from having to hammer them later with a large one out of necessity. I think being responsible with the fund balance and doing the tax increases when we have to, but not every year, that's my approach.
Okay.
That I think is the smart approach.
All right, so we've got Director Emmig's through Director Wolverton. We got yours, Director Miller. Thank you for that. Which one of you would like to go? Just state your opinion.
I'm
Dr. Meese.
in the Director MA column.
Okay.
No
No
tax,
cuts, no fund balance, no tax increase.
all fund balance.
All fund balance.
All fund balance,
That's
yeah.
not gonna
No,
work.
I want the last one that I said. Yes, that is correct. I apologize. No cuts, no tax increase, use the fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. That was succinct. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Director Whitmer.
I admittedly am sitting here going back and forth in my mind even as we talk, so I can't say I'm completely decided. I'm leaning more towards a 0% tax increase and the 87,000 in cuts. And even that, I'm struggling to say yes to those cuts because I think about the pool and I think about the lifeguards and, you know, I wonder what are they using to be able to do their job when they're lifeguarding? You know, is that the reason? You know, is it a safety issue? Is that the reason why they're asking for the lifeguard chairs? And I haven't had that conversation with Coach to know, so I don't know. But I'm struggling to say yes to any cuts at this point. So I flip-flopped even from last month, but I don't know. I think I need to think about it some more.
Do we know if this is a replacement of chairs, or do they not have any at all? Okay,
I believe it's a replacement.
okay.
Yes.
Let me make sure I've got you in the right category on the tax increase. You were 0% tax increase? 0%. Okay, and Director Kindig, I put you down here on the fence on that. Which one did you decide on the tax increase?
Well, I'm leaning towards the 1%.
Okay. I stated in our last meeting that I was in favor of the 1% tax increase for many of the same reasons, but more out of moderation than being offset, you know. I hate when you advertise a homestead increase or a homestead, you know, refund there, that we're just going to say, well, you don't need it and we're going to negate it. That's not my thought here. We're going to spend, you know, what they're going to get back on a tax to offset, you know, tax increase here. But I've listened pretty carefully, and last year there was a lot of urgency around how much we needed more money. This year it's been, maybe it's just your tact on this, but I haven't heard you make it urgent to us that we've got to have a tax increase. It is true we've got a healthy fund balance, more healthy than some, probably most districts, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So one of the things that keeps ringing in my ears is what Director Meese said last month too, is how can we go out to the taxpayer and ask them for more money when we already have their money in the bank, essentially. And so for that reason, I've moved back from that 1% moderate increase to 0%, with some minor misgivings about that, because I think I can see the potential of the things that are in front of us with the unknowns, lawsuits and these types of things. So I'm concerned about that. But I think that we need, you know, being that we're split equally until I weigh in on this, you know, 1% is not going to bail us out of anything. You know, we're talking about roughly $300,000 here with the tax increase. So that doesn't affect, you know, if we swing either way, it doesn't really affect that fund balance that much. So that's why I go with the 0% increase. Now, on the cuts, and I also have a little bit of trouble calling cuts because we're not cutting the budget. We're cutting on the proposed increase. So I know it's a fine line to distinguish that, but we're not saying in any form or fashion we're going to give the district less money than they had last year. This is the one I really waffle on because my tendency here is pressure on both sides of the equation. But without making this any more lengthy, I'll moderate that one and go with the reduced in half with an $87,000 cut instead of the 173. So as this falls out, looks like this board is in favor. Now, keep in mind, we've deliberated some tonight. We still have opportunity to deliberate next week when we vote on the preliminary budget. We're voting on the preliminary budget next week, right?
They're voting.
Yeah. That's green light, red light's going on and off on that, but it might be a weak
Sounds like
battery.
a game we used to play, right?
Yeah.
They have to vote on a preliminary budget next week. So it has to be whatever, if I have a 5-4 vote going on right now, you're 0% with 87,000 in cuts, I believe is what, I can't.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's 86,737.
That's what she's gonna bring, and then that's what you're gonna vote on. Just remember now, it's the preliminary budget.
Right.
That's all it is. You'll vote on the final budget in June. You can modify that preliminary budget. And the whole idea is that community responds, whatever it is, and then you can deal with it in the June meeting at that time.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, sounds good. So it's an up or down vote next week.
Well, it better be up because you have 30 days
Right.
to recommend, the recommendation would be to vote on the preliminary budget, and then if you need to make any modifications, you would do that in June.
Yeah, point taken on the up or down part. Okay, all right, so you have what you need? Okay. Any comments?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
The issue I talked to you about. I'm going to enlighten the board in regards to something. Mrs. Weaver had been asked to check the contract in regards to the facilities gentleman being able to do snow removal, as you recall from one of our last meetings. What did you find out?
I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't.
It's okay, because let me tell you what I found out. I had brought in here a paper that showed a document of $2,706.50. It was a billing to DM Fetro for snow removal in February of 2024, if you all recall that. What I have been doing is asking Mrs. Hamburger to do my dirty work, and as a professor, she went back through the bills that we have paid since 2018 to DM Fetro. We have paid roughly $22,000 for snow removal from, I guess it's January of 2018 up until 2024, March, April timeframe. Comes out to roughly $3,400 a year. The reason I say that is I then went and found DM Fetro. His name is Daniel Fetro. So I know his older brothers. As this little story goes on, he explained to me that he had been contacted by Dave Nelson, who was the facilities director of the Dover School District back in 2018 when we were going to build this high school. He was asked to remove the snow, push the snow at the high school, middle school, high school, intermediate school, whichever one you want to call it at the time, up through. He has done that every year with the following understanding. Dover School District apparently has, I don't know how many, Ford F-150s. They will push the snow at the elementary schools 1 to 2 inches. The high school and middle school will be done by Mr. Fetro. If the snow amounts and accumulates to more than 1 or 2 inches and those smaller trucks can't do it, Fetro will do the elementary schools. just so you understand, that company is owned by, I guess, the 3 or 4 brothers, and they have triaxle dump trucks that can have blades put on the front of them. We're talking a serious operation. He has been doing this all the way up through to 2024. Somebody negated that contract for this school district without this board's knowledge. I didn't know we had a snow removal contract for all these years. I don't know if any of you did. Bottom line to it is, my understanding is, he is willing to come back in, and what he does is, he doesn't charge us a retaining fee or anything else. Bottom line is, they do excavating, they do heavy hauling, the company, the Fetro company. And if it snows, they just aren't working. So they don't mind coming in and plowing the parking lots on call.
Why would we use them when we can do it in-house?
Because it's cheaper to do it through them than it is in-house.
It's cheaper to pay them to come in and do it instead of using our own workers?
$22,000, they plowed snow for 7 years.
I understand that, but if it snows tomorrow, our workers that we already pay are going to do the work rather than pay somebody else to do it. How is that financially
Because you don't
responsible?
have to buy the plows, you don't have to take the wear and tear on the trucks, the insurance. You bought a Ford F-350 that you don't need for any other thing than what you.
We've discussed that ad
I know,
nauseam,
we didn't know
and
about Fetro
it's-
either.
But it's a done deal, and I'm not sure what you're asking for us to do
What
moving
I'm telling
forward.
this board is the idea, this is how it's been done, and it was working just fine. We do not need a Ford F-350.
That
with-
truck has already been purchased,
And
and
we
it was a
can,
6-3
I
vote.
think you could sell the truck too, and recoup the money.
We'd never be able to recoup the money from selling that
Recoup.
truck.
Well, I want to know who negated that contract on behalf of the district without the board's approval.
I don't think we can ask that question here in this
I
public
know,
forum on
that's,
who.
but that's what I'm getting at, Dave. Who did that? Because this was beneficial to the school district to have them come in, the wear and tear is on their vehicles, and everything. It's not a matter of us doing, it is what is cheaper for the district.
And we can do that analysis for you and give you that information.
Yeah, I appreciate the point that you're raising here. I don't want to argue for or against it right now. Just not to defend her, but to reinforce one of the points that she made is that we made a decision by a majority vote. And so the purchase of that truck is on the board. I think the point you're making is we didn't have all the information about the snow contract. Is that
That is
what you're talking
correct.
about?
Keep in mind, the truck is used for a lot more than just snow plowing. We needed that level of truck to be able to do the hauling. And I'm sorry, I don't know the right verbiage, so forgive me. I don't know the technical terms. But we needed it for the number of pounds that it's willing to haul. It's not like that truck sits in a garage and we only take it out for plowing. I provided the board with a comparison of our fleet to every other school district, and ours is not out of line. Most school districts have 350s, and they have 350s because they need it to do the work that we have to do in our district. So I don't want the board to think that the only reason we purchased that truck was because of snow plowing. We purchased it because we use it and we need that level of capability.
Okay. Does the board have anything else to say on this matter?
I just have a quick question. So when the district, like, there's contracts that I would imagine get signed, and we don't have to approve everything or remove. I'm sure we don't see every financial decision. So when does it really?
I don't have the information about that contract. I don't know if it was a contract. I don't know if it was an agreement. I don't know if it was signed. But we don't have any obligation to continue on with a contract we don't need. And I don't know that we need the board approval to just not, you approve contracts, but if we're not planning to renew it, I'm not sure that we're going to ask the board to allow us to not renew a contract that we don't need.
That's something we could look into. So, as far as does the board feel like you want some analysis on, I guess, the value of using a contractor versus using a truck that we're using year-round, right?
Well, I think the question right now is, do we want to use FETRO or do we want to use our own people? Because we have the truck, right? So that's kind of a moot point. So I think that's what our question is right now. Is it cheaper to use our own people, or is it cheaper to contract out with another company? Isn't that the question we're asking?
Yes, I think so.
I think our facilities department is aware of the financial strain that we're under as a school district, and they're doing the best job possible. And I personally feel that it's what they're asking for is what we need, not what we want, because we have tons of money. I feel that if FETRO was the right way to go, we would have went with them. So I'm putting my trust in the decisions that our facilities department is making.
I can tell you that Mr. Fluke has saved this district $489,000 just this year by re-examining how we do things, by making cuts, by being very, very strategic about how we use ESSER's funds. So by doing a lot of in-house work. Yeah, he has an expertise that some of our previous facilities directors didn't have. And so because of Mr. Fluke, we have the ability to do this work in-house instead of having to pay someone else. So I do want to assure the board that everybody on my staff is acutely aware of our budget deficit, and every decision we make is trying at least to be fiscally responsible while at the same time making sure we do what we have to do for our kids.
Any other comments from the board on the topic? Okay, all right, let's move on. You have what you need? I got it. So that's good. That's positive news. May not be exactly what you were hoping for, but at least you have the answer to that question. So, all right, so let's move on. This takes us to our first public comment period. The board uses the public comment period as an opportunity to listen, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session with the speaker. The public comment periods must be, or the public comments themselves must be germane to school district business. The board values civil, respectful statements, clear and concise communication that helps to inform its deliberations. Now, I'll just remind everyone that to not only adhere to Policy 903 in making of your comments, but we'll do our best to gently keep things in line according to the policy. Anyone seeking to make public comment? All right.
Good evening.
I forgot to say, I'm sorry, don't start a clock yet. You will be a timer. You'll have 3 minutes. If you reset it after I get done. 3 minutes during this session. When we get to the second period, each speaker will have 2 minutes.
Andrea Stefanovich, 4801 Carlisle Road. Today was the second year in a row a group of us went to PA Schools Work Advocacy Day at the Capitol to push for fair public school funding. Like was attempted last year, the governor's budget includes cyber charter reform to cap payments from brick and mortar schools like ours. Passage of this reform could bring upwards of $1.5 million back to Dover. I appreciate the district's recent transparency of cyber charter costs on the district's website. However, that information has since been removed. I know the information can be found elsewhere by sifting through budget presentations and annual reports, but isn't transparency into district finances something we all agreed was a must? For the 23-24 school year, Dover taxpayers have paid $2.6 million just to cyber charter tuition. That cost is up to $3 million so far for this year, a 15% increase. Looking at the proposed 25-26 school year budget, more than $3.6 million of taxpayer money will be again taken away from our school district to pay for other schools. This time, that's an increase of 22% in a year. So while we are hearing about potential cuts to our students and staff at nominal amounts of $28,000 here, another $10,000 there, we're being forced to pay over $600,000 more this year to students and staff outside our district. Our district is struggling, nickel and diming every resource while cyber charter schools have a surplus of funds to the extent that they spend thousands on TV and social media advertising, millions on fuel reimbursements for staff, and incentives for students and parents involving grocery gift cards and free computers. Dover taxpayers want to know why their taxes are so high. It's not because our district is squandering money or going overboard in unnecessary spending. One reason is because we are forced to pay more and more each year to cyber charter schools. This is a great example of the old proverb, robbing Peter to pay Paul. There's nothing wrong with school choice, but someone else's choice should not take away taxpayer funds that are meant for our local public school district, especially when we have our own cyber offering. We should not be forced to pay more money to educate cyber charter students at another school than we are able to pay to educate our own children here. I've heard members of this board name drop our state representatives a few times, and I know some have close connections with them. So I'm urging the board to do their job and advocate for the students and staff of this district and have our taxpayer dollars brought back to what they're supposed to be paying for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stefanovich. Anyone else?
Hi, Spring Davidson. I was going to say I signed in, but I don't think I did actually. Sorry, because I did it upstairs. I forgot to do it. I will do it on my way out. Sorry. But I want to encourage you to not give a 0% increase this year and to do a 1%. And that's because for most people it's going to be a wash. So if you do no increase, people will get money. Their taxes will be cheaper this next year. And I'm not a person who usually stands and says, gosh, paying less taxes would be horrible. But if we increase it, nobody will feel it. And I think that that's probably what people feel. Most of us don't really get down that dirty to figure out where $50 came from. So for taxpayers, for everybody who pays their property tax, it's just going to feel like nothing still, even if we raise it 1%. So I would really encourage you to do the 1% just so that people don't get used to, oh, look, they're doing so well. They've taken tissues away from the children so that now we can get $50 back. Like, just let it be even. You know, I would be happy if my taxes just stayed even. So just a thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Don't forget to sign in. All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Susan Hamburger, Schoolhouse Road. I'd like to make just a brief comment about the truck issue that seems to be coming up. And I guess my problem with that is not so much that we spent $60,000, is that a vote was taken and you guys didn't have all of the information. You were told that we never outsourced, and that wasn't true. And I knew that the minute it was said because my neighbors had done plowing for the school. I brought the information to Mr. Wolverton, and again, I found information that we had indeed been doing this. That's my issue. You made a decision without having all of the information that you should have had. Was that your fault? Maybe you should have taken that month that he suggested and said, let's look deeper into this. Didn't this raise any flags with anyone when you were told this? You know, we had been doing this for 7 years. I mean, somebody should have known it. That's my issue with it, is I don't think the board did their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hamburger. Anyone else seeking to make public comment?
Hello, Shyla Kramer. I signed in. Wanted to start off, Mr. Conley, you mentioned that it's May. We have graduation. And I also wanted to note thank you again to the teachers. It was Teacher Appreciation Week. I happened to be in one of the buildings and saw some great things sent in from families and from the principal. And just have to shout out to the teachers because I sub one day and I take a 2-hour nap in the evening. So these friends of ours that are out there doing it day after day after day in the planning, literal angels on earth. Also want to shout out to the paraprofessionals as well. If the teachers are the people who make the education happen, the paraprofessionals and the like. They make the day-to-day to happen. So shout out to them as well for their hard work. That was number one. Number two, it was mentioned that we currently don't have any lifeguard chairs. I know there were discussions, so I think we weren't sure if it was a replacement or like a chair. I was told there are no chairs, just FYI, that we should have chairs for safety issues. I am also in favor of a slight tax increase. As a taxpayer, I would much rather have a little bit and a little bit rather than one huge chunk at a time. I'm happy to do whatever I can for the kids in the district, and if that means a little bit more right now, we're happy to do it at our household. And then last but not least, I just was looking at some of the policies that are on topic for today, and it's the board operations guideline. One of the first statements is, it says, in general, committees are formed to leverage the knowledge and expertise of members, foster collaboration and trust, facilitate deeper analysis, discussions, and research on topics, et cetera, et cetera. It then goes on to limit public participation in those committees to up to 15 minutes in duration may be permitted at the discretion of the chair. I felt like that comment contradicted the foster collaboration and trust that was stated at the beginning of the document, in that I'd like to come to the committees and have an open discussion and not be forced to a timer. I have a lot of things going on. I don't necessarily want to be here and just talk to talk. But if we're going to open collaboration and have these committees work, I'd like there not to be a 15-minute cap if we have more than, one person. And that 15 minutes also went with anything received from community members as well. So that would also go towards that time for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Kramer.
You bet.
Anyone else? All right, the public comment period is closed. And this takes us to the announcements. I'm going to scroll back up. Announcements of executive sessions. On April 15th, we had two executive sessions. Both of them were separate. First session was on personnel. Second session was to discuss budget. We received some training from PASBO. We had an executive session today to discuss labor issues prior to this meeting. This takes us to our board committee reports. The Educational Excellence Committee report. The chair recognizes the chair of that committee, Director Miller.
Thank you. This evening, we met and discussed some old business, and that was a review of the PSSAs and Keystones. The math and science PSSAs for the elementary were online this year. They saw some great work going on using those tools that they've been practicing, and that is good to know. Next year, the reading PSSA will be online as well. The high school and I believe the middle school are still taking the Keystones, have the literature Keystone as well to take. We discussed a new business, library books. I received a list of all the books purchased in the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school, and was kind of looking at what those books were, the topics of the books, some titles as well. And the high school librarian showed up at the meeting, and we're very glad that she did. She shared a checklist that she uses to keep track of the books that she orders, and she keeps track of the genre, if it's a series, if it's won any awards, any comments that she's seen, and she shared that with other school librarians. So I just thought that was a great way of kind of keeping track of what you are ordering, and we're glad that she shared that with us. We talked about book fairs. Right now, I believe Dover has the Scholastic Book Fair. Book fairs are twice a year. I think the PTO does a great job of running those. I just suggested another type of book fair. Skytree Book Fairs is out there as a possibility. I think they're going to be checking into that. Maybe the PTO will check into that. Did receive some information about Skytree. We talked a lot about graduation requirements, so thank you, Mrs. Fasig, for sharing all of that. they mentioned that sometimes students sabotage themselves, that they don't really want to graduate, they don't want to leave the security of our building, and I hadn't thought about that, and I think that's something to be aware of. She mentioned that they monitor all year long where the students are as far as meeting their graduation requirements, and a shout out to Mr. Deal. She mentioned you as doing a great job, especially with the York Adams Academy, so thank you for that, and making sure that those seats are used by the students that need those. That's going to be their ticket to graduating, so we're glad that they have that opportunity. She talked about credit recovery through Edmentum. That's where students can get those credits if they're not passing in class or did not pass a class. They can still have the opportunity to do that. There's a military share, which I did not know about, where students have a way to earn service hours by military share by packing bags, I think, of food for families. Senior project, there's service hours of 10 hours that they have to earn through their whole career, not just their senior year, from freshman through senior year. So it sounds like that everybody in the high school is working together to make sure that students graduate. No, they don't all graduate, but they're really working together. I think that they do cross that finish line. We did not get to the topic of future in-service, so we'll discuss that at our next meeting on June 10th. I think that's it. Ms. Director Whitmer, do you have anything to add? Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, Director Miller. Board have any questions for the chair of the Educational Excellence Committee? Hearing none, you must have briefed it very well. All right, that takes us to our next agenda item 5.02 is the Facility/Safety Committee report. Chairman of that committee is Director Meese. Director Meese is recognized.
All right, thank you. All right, old business, we had two, ooh, this is really loud. Old business, we had two topics, the crosswalk install recap. Mr. Fluke said everything went well with the install. They look really good, and they're consistent with the others in the district. You might have noticed that only the keys are painted inside and not the outline. They don't actually do the outline anymore. It's just the keys that are painted. So the existing outline is very faint because that's old. And then the second topic of old business is the facilities update to the facilities study. That will begin when school lets out. So Mr. Fluke will be doing tours of all of the schools so that company can put together that facility study for us. He said they're probably going to spend the majority of their time at the middle school. So that's old business. As far as new business goes, you are all aware of the incident that we had with the crossing guard, unfortunately. Fortunately, he's doing well and he's actually back to work with limitations. We don't have him at that intersection currently. We're not going to put him at that intersection for the remainder of the year. So instead, we have a flagger force out there doing that crosswalk. I asked Mr. Fluke if there was anything that we could have done on our end as far as precautions or extra training, and he said, not as far as he can tell. It was really the driver of the vehicle. The crossing guard had the fluorescent gloves on, the guardian angel light, the fluorescent vest, and all the other precautions. He's had all the training. So there's really nothing that we could have done as far as that goes. Second topic of new business is the middle school traffic flow configuration. Mr. Fluke and Mr. Perkins presented to Director Hogan and I a solution for the traffic flow at the middle school to make it safer for the buses and the kids getting on and off the buses, to make it safer for parents to drop children off, parents that might not be as knowledgeable because they don't drop their kids off frequently, also to make it safer for kids when they're using part of the parking lot for recess. I guess they put basketball nets and stuff like that out in the parking lot. So it's all work that we can do in-house. And there's some purchases that we're going to have to make. Mr. Fluke's going to get those numbers for me, but I'm probably going to ask Mrs. Almond to put that on the agenda for next week for the board to approve. So I'll give you some pricing with that, but Director Hogan and I think it's a great idea. Director Hogan understood more about it than I really did because he actually drops kids off there, so I think he understands that traffic flow a little bit more, but he's 100% on board with those changes. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, you're good. They did a great job. I actually, dropped off my son. I don't know if I should say this publicly, but he was late today. But I'm like, yeah, there's traffic flow, communication that's going to be improved. There's going to be safety that's going to be improved. It's amazing the job they've done, so I'm all on board for that.
Yep, so we recommend that gets approved. Also, it'll actually help as well with football games and events using the field, because the gates that they want to put up, they'll be able to block off handicap parking and referee parking and so on as well. Okay, moving on. The middle school chiller is forever a thorn in our side and has once again broken down in a sense. So Mr. Fluke's team is having to repair that and keep it limping along for the remainder of the school year. So he said that there might be some bills that come across that we see. It might be in upwards of a total of like 10,000 for the remaining of the school year, but it just is a necessary thing that we have to do. So that's just more, there's no action the board has to take. It's more just an informational thing. The Dover Elementary, moving on, the Dover Elementary kitchen water heater, to Dr. Houck's point, Mr. Fluke's team saved quite a bit of money here. The hot water heater failed at Dover Elementary in the kitchen, so we did not have hot water. So instead of replacing what the existing unit kind of the way it was, that would have cost $13,000. He found an alternate solution, which also created a redundancy where we have two smaller hot water heaters. So instead of it costing $13,000, I think he said it cost like $4,000 or something, but in essence, he saved us like $13,000. I'm looking at my numbers here and they don't add up, but he saved us about $13,000 and created redundancy in that system. So if we have something go out again, at least in the kitchen, we have the hot water, which we have to have for health reasons. All right. Anything to add? Anything to add? Do you remember the numbers on that?
10 to 12.
10 to 12 what?
Thousand in savings.
In savings, okay. That number stuck in my head. Okay, and then last but not least, as far as new business, you guys are aware that the turf is going to need replaced. And Mr. Fluke has spoken a couple of times about replacing sections as an option, but he has since found out that that is not recommended at all because replacing a section is upwards of $50,000 and that'll only last 1 to 3 years. So 2 of the 3 companies that he talked to actually said they won't do that because they're not going to waste our money. So he's working now on getting bids. He has 3 bids. They're anywhere between $400,000 to $530,000 to replace the turf, and we are going to have to do that next summer. The fact that we've gotten 15 years out of it and we'll get another year, get 16 years out of it is a godsend, really, because the typical age is 12 to 15 years. So they've been taking really good care of it, and we've gotten a lot of usage out of it. But it's something that the board's going to have to address probably the end of the school year next year because it's going to need replaced next summer.
Was there any discussion on going back to a grass field? I know there's a lot of professional teams that are ditching the turf because of injury reasons. There would be maintenance on it, but it might be safer, and would it be?
So I believe Director Hogan asked that specific question.
Yeah, Mr. Fluke's already taken grass into consideration, and I'll let him explain why that's not the best option. But it's maintenance nightmare, it's staffing, it's, the kids don't get the 100% playtime like they do on a turf. You can't always practice if you like.
With rain.
Yeah, rain and other, so it's not the best. It's, the cost is, I think, not much savings. in
I think he
terms-
said it would be more.
Yeah, he did say that, but I didn't know if I heard that right. But yeah,
Okay.
he did, I guess you confirmed he did say it would probably be more.
Do you want to bring Mr. Fluke out now or wait until he has more time to develop a proposal on the options on that?
Why don't I put on his action items here to get us the cost of that, and he can detail that in.
Yeah, they're just starting this conversation. It's been planned for several years, but getting the most out of the turf has been the objective. They've achieved that, but now it's to the point where, for safety, you don't want a kid to because of the padding. It's getting harder and harder. So an injury is something that's definitely what they're trying to prevent. So it's something that's needed, and it's going to be $400,000 to $500,000. There's probably not a way around it. I mean, unless somebody has a superior idea that facilities hasn't considered.
It's just, I think Mr. Fluke really is hitting the ground running here with a year in advance. He had 4 samples of turf to show us at the committee meeting, and he's already got 3 quotes. So this is the time to ask questions so that we can get answers. So these are all great questions, and I'll follow up on that.
And the other point is, a lot of people think of turf as, oh, this is a football need.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a football. Soccer's on it, track is on it. It's a need for all sports, and most likely that turf gets used, almost 6 out of 7 days of the week, almost all day long, because the middle school uses it for recess, I think, and then you got soccer and everything. So it's not like it's a football field that's only being used for football.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I run the track on the weekends with my son, and there's always soccer teams out there practicing.
Yep.
Get extra practice in. I did have another question on the traffic flow at the middle school.
Yes.
You mentioned putting a gate in.
Yes.
Is that on the canal entrance?
I actually have a map with the gate with drawings on it.
Okay.
It's so I can email that to everybody. It might be a better visualization
I think
tool.
there's 3 gates that are needed.
Yeah,
And we
3
have one
gates.
gate they're gonna take from near, I think it's School Lane. There's a gate over there.
there is one over
That's
there.
not being used. They're gonna repurpose that further down, and I think there's 2 gates that are being purchased. And there's something to do with an island that has grass. They're gonna take it away, but they have to put it back somewhere else because of township or drainage regulations or something
Okay.
like that. So they considered all these different options. And yeah, that's about all I know.
I will attach that to my email to Mrs. Almond so she can add that as an attachment to our agenda for next week, the map. Good. Okay, Director Whitmer?
Yeah, I'm going to play devil's advocate in regards to the turf, because I just started thinking about some things. When Director McKinney mentioned injuries, we have professional teams, obviously they do have a lot more money, but if they're seeing the investment in a grass field being worth saving the bodies of their players, then maybe we need to do some research on what exactly they found. And as well, I mean, we probably should do some cost analysis. If we're looking at $500,000 this coming year for a field that's going to last maybe 15 years, then what are we looking at in cost? Could it double in the next 15 years? Is that another, million that we're looking at to replace it then in 15 years? And what would be the cost if we did have a grass field? Now, I understand there's going to be some days where there's too much rain. Okay, so that's life. But if it helps our kids, their bodies are not going to get destroyed as badly on a turf field, and we can still manage the maintenance of a grass field. I don't know. I just think it's worth looking into. That's all I'm saying.
I agree, it is, yep. I'll add that to, I added it to his action items for more detail on that. Grass option.
Yeah, not every school does have a turf field. I saw during this last track
Yeah.
season, I saw 2 schools that had grass football fields, Northern and West York. That way, they didn't look the best because it's not peak football season, but they are still being utilized by high schools around here.
Okay. All right, great feedback. Thank you, guys. As far as updates from the staff and admin, we went around the table. Mr. Fluke and Mr. Perkins said right now is the busiest time for the facilities team, June, July, and August. They actually go through and touch every single piece of equipment in every single school. They're very proud of the fact that they've made leaps and bounds over the last couple of years with indoor air quality, duct cleaning, maintenance of those systems. Mr. Riggins wanted to say thank you for the quick response that they had to an issue in the bathroom. He's very appreciative of the response time of the facilities team, so I just wanted to mention that. Also, Mrs. Wickenheiser is excited for phase 2 of the boiler install. And Dr. Weisling, am I right? Did I say that right? She's glowing. Yes, she is. I love it. And then Dr. Weisling is very appreciative of the communication between his department and the facilities department. Without that really great communication, they wouldn't, Dr. Weisling's department wouldn't be able to function as well. So with all of the cancellations and, with weather and all of that stuff. So he's very appreciative of Mr. Fluke's team as well. Let me just look down through here. Comments from the board members. Director Hogan is still very interested in moving forward with increasing the visibility of the crosswalk. So looking forward to working on that from now through next year and getting the funding so that we can do that project, which again is going to be $25,000-$30,000 for those signals. Obviously, we still need some work done there in light of the recent event. And that's all I have. Sorry I took so long.
No, it's no problem. You had a lot of business. So thank you for the report. I'll open it up for the rest of the board to ask questions or clarifying.
I have one more question. And Director Miller had said about the next meeting, June 10th. It's June 17th? When's our next?
June 17th.
Not our next meeting, but the June meeting. Is June 17th?
June 17th.
Because there's just the one meeting. Yep. Okay, good. That's what I said at my meeting, so I wanted to make sure that was correct.
Okay, very good.
So correction.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh. I told everybody there's only.
I wasn't sure if we were meeting, so that's why I had a question mark there. So we're set. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the chair of the Facilities and Safety Committee?
When you talk about the turf fields,
Yes.
I'm just wondering if we have or should have restrictions on what's going on in these turf fields. I've heard complaints over the last couple of years that, like the lacrosse field, the softball team uses it, maybe their field's too muddy or whatever, so they use it for practice. And there's claims that there's actually indentations in the field because in softball you have a batter's box and the person stays there in a pitcher's mound, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't take a look at that while we're looking at these turf fields, and maybe we need to think about restrictions of who uses it and how they use it.
Okay. I'll add that as a follow-up. I know Mr. Fluke had said there's different levels of quality of the turf fields. So some turf fields might be able to be used for more than one type of sport and others may not. So he's actually looking into, it's on his action items here to look into the lacrosse field and what company installed that and what turf was used. Whether or not that's something that we want to steer away from if it hasn't really been giving us the best product. So
Yeah, I can't speak for all fields, but the football field in particular, because that was the discussion point. It wasn't about these other fields. It's, I think the area like the pitch near the goal line that gets used the most, and that was the repair. He was trying to save money and do all those considerations, and these companies came back and said, we won't even touch that because it's not going to save you any money, and it's not going to, it's to them not worth it. But to your point, in that, should we restrict what sports? I think the sports that are using it currently and have been using it, it's just that one pitch area that would get worn down. I can't speak to the other fields, so I don't think it's a concern with the football field that you're referring to, And they've already maxed out they call it CROM, I think, and these other fields, they've already maxed it out because of, I think, some of the maybe I don't know if it's architecture or what it's called, but they did something where 13 tons of chrome was needed to bring that to safety regulation. So we want to avoid that.
Chrome is that black rubber stuff
Yeah.
that's embedded in the turf? Okay, any other questions from the rest of the board? All right. Is that, anything else? Thank you, Director Meese. Great job on that. A lot of issues to cover, so I appreciate that. All right, the next is the report on the Resource Oversight Committee. The chair recognizes our chairman of that committee, Director McKinney.
Yep. I'm impressed at the efficiency on the facilities. There's a lot of stuff in 1 hour.
Yeah.
All right, so the Resource Oversight Committee, we started out by following up on last month's items. We talked about revenue generation, possible pool parties, sponsorships, donations of scoreboards by other schools that we might be able to replicate. Then there was a presentation from Mrs. Weaver, the 2024-25 budget to actual projections. So she showed us where we are standing as we come to the end of this fiscal year. After that, we discussed the 25-26 budget recommendations. Mainly the three of us directors and Mrs. Weaver had that discussion. We talked about the options that we had up here on the screen with the tax cuts and the other reductions. Like I said, we didn't come to a consensus, but we did discuss it and got a head start on thinking about it before this deliberation in this meeting. And then finally, Director Kindig had some questions on the debt schedules. So Mrs. Weaver printed out the full debt schedule and explained it to us. We have a very low interest rate. We're doing great on that. And there's a possibility we may have the bond advisor, Mr. Phillips, come in and do a presentation to our committee so that we can understand that more thoroughly. And that was it. That took up the whole session.
All right, thank you, Director McKinney. Any questions for the Resource Oversight Committee? Any personnel issues or anything like that?
We had none this meeting.
Okay. No questions or comments? All right, thank you very much for that report, Director McKinney. This takes us to our next section, discussion of action items for May 20th, 2025. I just want to clarify for agenda item 6.01, there's a discussion of action items related to a DAEA grievance, which all of you probably saw on the agenda. I think we're restricted from any discussion about this topic in public. That's why we had an executive session related to this. We will be voting on that next week. Agenda item 6.02, waiver of expulsion agreement at our number 04162025. This is also this item in agenda item 6.03, which is waiver of expulsion agreement 04232025. Both of these items as well would follow the same convention. These would be discussed in executive session. All right, agenda item 6.04 is the 2025 Dover Area High School graduates list. That is in executive content for right now. Will we be publishing that list publicly next week?
Yeah, the reason I suspect that it's in executive content is because those are all of the students that we expect will graduate, but that some of them may have some outstanding obligations, credits or service hours or whatever, and may or may not make it. So once we know for certain who those individuals are, they will absolutely be published.
Okay, very good. Is there any discussion or questions from the board on that item? All right, agenda item 6.05 is the appointment of a board treasurer for a one-year term for July 1st through the 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Our current treasurer is Director McKinney, and we'll be taking nominations at our board meeting next week and appointing a new treasurer or our current treasurer, depending on how that works out, for a one-year term. Any questions or comments on that? Agenda item 6.06 is the appointment of Miranda Weaver as board secretary for a 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2029. So we will go through the process there. It's got her name on here. If there's any action to or suggestion that we nominate someone else, the board would, we would appreciate you getting that intent to us as quickly as possible in case you want to nominate someone else, and we can make preparations for a contested, or not necessarily contested, but another name in the mix. All right. Any discussion around that? The difference in the terms between the treasurer and the board secretary are all governed by our board policy. Agenda item 6.07, appointment of Amy Alman as assistant board secretary for a one-year term. The dates are there. Same rule applies. Agenda item 6.08, extended school year appointments. And the names are under public comment for teachers, the nurse, some PCAs, and paraprofessionals. All of them are listed there. Is there anything superintendent would like to mention on these?
Just a clarification for those who may not know that this is not summer school. This is extended school year for our special education students who have it written into their IEP that they have to have extended school year. I believe it runs the end of June into July, Mrs. Snyder. It's how many weeks? She might want to give you some information on that.
So it runs July 8th to the 31st. Teachers come in a day before to prepare. Actually, our preparation starts well before that. We prepare the materials and everything like that for the students. We qualify the students based on factors that PDE hand out. Do they regress if they have a break in their educational periods? Does it take a longer period than a normal student to recoup the materials? Standards such as that. And they would go during the month of July, and the amount of staffing is dependent on what's written into their IEPs.
All right, thank you. Director Snyder. Any other comments or questions from the board on that item? For those of you who may be watching via video, Mrs. Snyder is our Director of Special Education, and she's doing an excellent job in that area, and we appreciate what she's doing for us. I made a comment to her, asking her if she was looking forward to school being out. It doesn't really happen for her, and this is a good example of why. Her year just continues on and on and on. All right, agenda item 6.09 is summer work appointments. Those are all listed under public comment. Any questions, comments, concerns? 6.10, resignations and terminations. Those are all listed under public comment. And there's an additional comment down at the very bottom of that under executive comment for board members only. All right, agenda item 6.11, retirements. See the name under public comment. 6.12, leaves. Board has all the information they need there. Transfers under 6.13. Shuffling the deck a little bit, making some coverage improvements. And this is one of the, you might want to mention this as well, the contributions that some of our folks are making to help us out. Is that for next year? The ones we were talking about, some of the reassignments for the elementary school?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I know what you're talking about.
We're talking about the was it second grade?
Second and third grade.
Second, third grade coverage. Is this covered here or no?
We have a second grade teacher who is moving from Weigelstown over to Dover Elementary.
Yeah, that's
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and it is in public content. So that's Mr. Docky. We had a change in enrollment in Weigelstown where we currently have 3 second grade teachers, but we're only going to need 2 next year. And conversely, at Dover Elementary, we're going to need another second grade teacher, and so Mr. Docky has volunteered. If most of you, I think, can understand how when you work in a place, they become your family, and so sometimes moving to a different school, it can be challenging for somebody. You're leaving the people that you know and going to a different school. So we are, very grateful to Mr. Docky for his willingness to volunteer to do that.
And the board appreciates it as well. We were briefed on that by Dr. Hauk, and it makes a difference when people are willing to be flexible and help out where the needs are. All right, agenda item 6.14 is appointments, or are the appointments, I should say. There's a long list of them here. Any questions, comments on that? Agenda item 6.15 is the addition to the to the district-owned social media accounts, elementary Instagram. I'll recognize our superintendent to brief on that.
Currently, we have a district Instagram account that is run by Mr. Perkins. Mrs. Fasik also has a high school Instagram account, and Mrs. Huffnagel has a middle school Instagram account. The elementary principals would also like to utilize Instagram to announce events as a way of communicating with our families, also as a way of showcasing some of the events that take place in our elementary buildings and highlighting student achievements. The principal would be the only person who can post. They would have complete control over what's posted, and comments are disabled. So, and you'll notice that about our current social media accounts, that people can't comment on them. So we don't have to police that. So they just want to be able to brag about all the great things that are happening in their buildings, and Instagram is a great vehicle to do that.
Very, very well. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, very good. Agenda item 6.16 is the Delaware Valley University Articulation Agreement for 2024, 2025, and 2025 and 2026. Those agreements are there with, is that the addendum? The let's see, we have 2 attachments there. One is just the signature page. I'm sorry. Any questions, comments? All right, the next one, 6.17, is the Penn College Dual Enrollment Concurrent Enrollment Agreement. Contract, is there any questions for that?
Yeah, on page 9, it talks about a partnership fee. I was wondering what that fee usually is, amount.
I'm looking for it. You said page 9?
Page 9.
Page 9.
Under payment section?
Yep, under payment.
Be at the bottom of the page. What line on it? Is it the first or second bullet paragraph?
Well, the second one says for existing partners, which I assume is us.
I will check on this for you. I don't know the answer to that. But I think that we are not an existing partner. I think that we are, this might be a new one. I don't know. I'm not going to make up an answer, Mr. Kindig.
I'd appreciate that.
I will find out for
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Weaver, do you have another answer to that
don't.
question? You don't either, okay, so,
And Mrs. Miller will be here at the next meeting. She's not able to come to this one, so she can
Okay.
answer any questions you have about those.
all right, very good. Any other questions? All right, the next agenda item, 6.18, is the York College Memorandum of Understanding for College and the High School, Principles of Management. Any questions? All right, agenda item 6.19, Business Associate Agreement with York County Children and Youth. This is just the annual update, right?
Yeah, this agreement basically defines the terms of confidentiality between the district and children and youth. A lot of information about protected health information. I know the spirit of this document, but Mr. Pratt's the attorney here. I'm not. But basically, that's what it's doing, is ensuring that both sides are following all, HIPAA, FERPA types of laws.
She covered it? Okay. We have a thumbs up agreement and endorsement from our solicitor on that, so nice job. All right, agenda item, let me ask, any questions on agenda item 6.19? All right. Agenda item 6.20, the 2025-2026 Every Student Succeeds Act, otherwise known as ESSA agreement. You want to speak to this one? Okay.
This is an annual agreement that is an agreement between the district and children and youth. When a student becomes a foster student, they are given the option to either stay in whatever school they were in before they became a foster student, or attend the school of the foster family they're living in. And both schools, along with children and youth, we get together, we have a meeting, and we talk about what's in the best interest of that child. And sometimes we'll determine that it's in their best interest to stay in their home school. Sometimes it's in their best interest to move to the new school. And this is an agreement between all three parties that we would provide transportation. Normally, all three entities help pay for the transportation. The sending school, the receiving school, and CNY will pay for transportation for that kid.
These students under this agreement are not treated as out-of-district students that would trigger tuition, right?
Correct.
Okay.
They are not. They are entitled to maintain stability of their education to go to either school.
And because of the temporary nature, they don't add to our ADM for our basic education or special education subsidies? Or do they?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Any questions from the board? All right. Next agenda item, 6.21, 2025-2026 LIU Master Services Agreement. Standard annual upgrade. Are there any major differences in this agreement over previous years?
So this is sort of a new agreement. Rather than having multiple different agreements for different types of services, the IU decided, let's just do one blanket agreement. And basically, every time they provide us a service, they will give us a statement of work that outlines the work that they're going to be doing, how much it costs. So this is just sort of an agreement that we're okay with using statement of work instead of having separate agreements for every type of service.
Now, will those statements of work come to the board for approval since they're an expenditure?
That's only if they meet the threshold
Okay.
of board policy, which they typically don't.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Under previous obligations to the LIU, what do we typically pay per year in our obligations to them? Does anybody want to know?
Typically, our Schedule A service agreement is for about 1.9 million.
So just refresh my memory on that. Do we normally approve our obligations to them individually or as a lump whole, or is it just part of the annual budget?
It's part of the annual budget.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, the next agenda item, 6.22, is the 2025-2026 River Rock contract for reservation of slots. You want to speak to this one too, Dr. Howe?
I do. Basically what we do is we reserve a certain number of slots and we pay for them up front. They are far cheaper to pay for up front than if we paid for them as we needed them. I am in, and will have for you by next week. I feel very comfortable with the 8 slots that we would reserve. I think every year we use at least the 8 slots. Some years we use more than 8. I am questioning right now, though, whether we need all 4 of the elementary slots. So I may be coming to you with a different number. We're going to do some analysis of how many slots we've used in previous years, how many we currently have and projected to use for next year. And I may reduce those from 4 to maybe, I don't know, 3 or 2, depending upon what I find out.
Any questions? Comments? All right, so the next one is very closely associated with this. Agenda item 6.23 is the 2025-2026 River Rock Agreement for alternative education. You want to speak to that one as well?
Well, that's just the agreement that says we're gonna use you for alt ed. It's really that simple.
Right, okay. Any questions from the board? Agenda item 6.24 is the Docio, is that how you pronounce that?
Docio.
Docio, okay. Docio copier and printing lease agreement effective October 23rd, 2025 through June 30, 2031. So this moves out into the future quite a bit. All the information here is under public comment, is available to everyone. Any questions from the board?
I have a question on, we have policy 610 that says we'll go out for competitive bids. And we had a copier company send an email to the board, which was kind of strange, forwarded to Mrs. Weaver. It doesn't sound like we're going for competitive bids on this, and I have a little bit of problem with that. We have a policy says we will. Competitive bids force vendors to sharpen their pencils. I understand this company claims they're giving us a good price. They probably are. I have no way of debating whether it is or isn't, but I struggle with, we have a policy that says we'll go out for competitive bids. So that's where I struggle right now.
Mm-hmm. Director Ken, just to let you know, CoStars is a state purchasing program which does the competitive bidding already for school districts. So it does go through that competitive programming, that competitive process already. And they already have on their site those competitive bids, and you, as a school district, get to use the CoStars program to select through the state's competitive bidding program that they have through CoStars. So it does fall and it does meet the obligation under your policy as well as meet the obligation under state law going through CoStars to find that competitive bidding.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. That's good information. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, when I handled copier leases at a previous job, I would do a spreadsheet and monitor the usage, the number of copies being used. And these leases usually have a quota on them. And if we were finding that we were either overusing and getting overage charges because they charge a little more per copier when you go over your quota, or if we were grossly underusing it, I would give the company a call and have that quota adjusted, and they would usually accommodate me. Is there anyone that monitors the copier usage to see if we selected the right quota number of copies?
Justin does,
Yes.
yes. Yep. And we never go over, so.
Want me to give a little?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, but if we are paying for way more than we need, if we're way under, sometimes giving them a call and getting that adjusted is a savings.
So as part of this new agreement, we went through and looked at, we have paper cut on all of our copiers, so we can look at exactly who's printing what, how many pages we're printing, and we keep track of it, and we have a quota, so that way we don't have anybody that abuses the system. But we went through and looked at the total number of print jobs that we've done over the course of the last contract for the last 5 years. And we've also adjusted some of the copiers as well and went down from 75-page-a-minute copiers down to 55-page-a-minute copiers in the areas that weren't heavily used. So therefore, we had some substantial cost savings with this new contract, in addition to the tariffs that have been put in place with new fleets of copiers coming in. That was kind of the reason that we had looked at doing this with Osseo and going through CoStars, was just to save some of that money, because a lot of the companies have announced, 15, 20, 25% tariffs. They had some pre-tariff inventory already in their warehouse. So as part of trying to move this along, we could make use of their pre-tariff inventory. We could kind of downsize or right-size our fleet to match what it is that we're actually using now that we have data for what copy counts we've been putting through it. And then just trying to make the most sense for the dollar and cents perspective, where we're at with copy counts and everything that we've seen over the last 5 years and the trends. Because a lot of the devices that we had weren't getting used to the extent that we were, the copy counts were in the previous lease. So now that we have that hard data, we can go in and look at it and be like, okay, well, this device has, 200 copies on it a month versus this one has, 30 or 40,000 on it a month. So we can look at that and see where we need to make changes and try to get, smaller devices to fit into, some of those areas.
All right. Glad you're keeping an eye on it. Good job.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding copiers and why we're trying to go this route rather than a full bid? And we're very happy with Osseo as well, as far as getting them to come in and fix our devices. When we put a ticket in, it's usually the same day or the next day. I know some of the issues I've heard with some other vendors is they're not local companies and they're more of a national company. So you're dealing with a repair person that's hours away versus, somebody right here in York County. So that does make a difference when, we're trying to, right-size our fleet, and we're not going to have as many devices, out there. And if one's down for an extended amount of time, it makes it inconvenient for the teachers or the staff in the building that are trying to, make copies or, do their schoolwork for the students.
Any questions? The total value of this contract is how much?
I don't have it in front of me.
We are saving from our current contract over the life of the contract almost $18,000 over 5 years.
It's a decent amount when you can factor in the tariffs and everything else that have happened over the last 5 years.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Boyd? All right. Well, thank you very much for that update. I appreciate that. All right. So the next item is agenda item 6.25, the culinary depot base bid of $107,740.11 for a walk-in refrigerator, freezer, and a is that convention oven or a convection oven?
Convection.
Convection, okay. Convection oven funded through the Action for Healthy Kids grant. So this will be at no cost to the district?
Correct.
Okay. The bid is there as well. Any questions from the board? Any discussion? This walk-in freezer, is this going to be in addition to the walk-in freezer that we have at the middle school?
It's a replacement.
So this is going to, the big one that's old and has been repaired multiple times, it's going to replace that entire unit?
Mrs. Renard's coming up to
Oh, okay.
answer your questions.
Very good. I wasn't sure.
The big freezer that you're referring to
Mhm.
is we call that our district freezer, and that is going to stay.
Okay.
It's the smaller one and the refrigerator that's designated just for the middle school use. So beside the freezer, there is a closet that has the compressor in the closet, which should have never been done. It should be on the roof. So we're going to, with the new one, we're going to take that closet area and kind of move our freezer down. Like if you look at the real estate, we're going to shift the freezer down and it will stay the same size. And then we're going to expand the size of our refrigerator because we use so much more fresh produce. And we're going to put the compressor where it should be, which is on the roof. And then the convection oven is a double stack oven. It does a lot of our quick to fix type items like chicken nuggets and french fries, pizzas and things like that. And that will be used in tandem with the combi oven that we had before. So we're gonna have 2 different sets of ovens. So that is kind of what's going on with that grant. And then there's still some money left over that we haven't allotted to any kind of equipment yet. So that will be coming probably in upcoming board meetings.
Okay. While you're still there, let me see if the board has any questions for you. You have any questions? All right. That was a good briefing. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Also appreciate the efforts of the district to seek funding for this through that Healthy Kids grant. Or Action for Healthy Kids grant. Okay. All right. Agenda item 6.26, the obsolete listing for the high school. These are broken headphones. There's 7 sets of those. Agenda item 6.27, obsolete listing for the Live Elementary books. Those are all listed in the attachment. If there's any questions on any of these, just let me know. Okay? Seeing none, we'll move forward. The next ones are, next agenda item is 6.28, the policies, second reading. We have one policy, policy number 234. We'll be voting on this next week. The pregnant, parenting, and married students policy. Bills paid report, April combined check register. You'll be giving a report on that next week, I think.
Yeah, I can give that next week.
Okay, that'll be good for next week. And are there any questions on that from any board members? If you develop any questions, get those to our treasurer. The treasurer can forward those to the administration. The treasurer's report as well, same applies for that. If you have any questions now, feel free to ask. All right, then the minutes, I'll cover both of these at the same time. Agenda item 6.31 and 6.32 cover the minutes of the April 8th and the April 15th meeting. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward to the next section, discussion items, section 7. Agenda item 7.01, policies first reading. We have 3 policies. One of these was commented on in our public comment. We'll try to address that as well during this discussion. So we have a policy 005, which is our organization policy that deals with a lot more than just the committee items, but those committee items that were mentioned are in there. And then the BOGs, which are board operating guidelines, will handle these as policies. What these will be are attachments to the policy 005. So when you go into our repository on the board docs that you can access through our website, whenever you bring up policy 005, these BOGs will be attachments to that. Any question, comments, concern? I think we'll start with the policy first, and then we'll go to the BOGs. Any questions concerning policy?
Would you mind just checking that paragraph, that,
Yeah,
to
so
make
I'm-
sure that it is written the way that the board wants it written? I believe it was the first paragraph?
First paragraph under committees.
Under committee, correct.
Yeah.
You might want to look at the copy that's on the agenda rather than
Then
what you've printed out.
Right. Okay, so if everyone is on board docs now, you can look under the committee section, which would be page number 3 in the policy. First sentence says the board has the authority to appoint board committees. Board committees authorized to take official action or render advice on district business shall operate in accordance with the provisions of the Sunshine Act. Now, that is a statement that's made when it includes, originally it had the line or the words, take official action stricken, because, and we removed that striking of those 3 words because the next section, or the next sentence says no committee may take official action on any matter, and this phrase here says unless specifically authorized to do so by the board. So the intent is no committee will take official action, but there's a provision where the board may authorize a committee to take official action. And so that's why we decided to leave the language in there in the previous sentence, take official action, so that if they are authorized, that they must follow the provisions of the Sunshine Act, which means all of their actions and deliberations must be held in public. Any questions on that?
Are we permitted to approve meeting minutes from previous meetings?
Yep.
That is an excellent question.
I would
So,
think that'd be an action of that committee, not an action of the board.
yeah, is that,
So that's
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the answer as well. Thank you.
I took some law classes.
There you go. I like that.
We don't need Mr. Brown.
I can cover the other meeting. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Step away from the microphone, Mr. Brown.
Okay, so let's go back to, so this committee section is one of the reasons that we delayed action on this policy. But just to, for clarification, the bold statements of the changes that have been recommended by PSBA, and then the selections, the checks or X'd in selections that we chose there as well, based on that. And there's a statement in there that says at the end of that committee section, the board shall develop board operating guidelines. It's not optional, but says it shall develop those, or we're calling them BOGs, that describe the names, responsibilities, duties, and procedures for the operation of each standing committees. That should probably, it's got the S stricken there. It's hard to see. I read right through that. You see that? Okay. All right, any comments on this before we go to the BOGs? All right, there's, the BOGs will address the comment as well, and we'll try to talk about that. So there's language in the BOGs, and so if you want to open that attachment, there's language throughout this document that talks about the purpose is to advise or to evaluate, I'm sorry for coughing, running into the microphone, or to, it sounds like the committee will take official action. It says under the Educational Excellence Committee, the purpose section also says advising on curriculum. So the question is, who are they advising? The committees will not be advising the administration. They're advising the board. The board, each one of these committees are functioning to support board deliberation and action. Okay, so we don't have the authority as committee members to tell the administration what to do. The board has statutory authority, which is limited to do certain things, but the administration is there to run the school system. So all of the advice that's coming out of the committees is going directly back to the board. As far as the statements concerning public comment period, and we have our solicitor here to correct me where I may, off the cuff, state this incorrectly. The public comment period is required in an open session of the board where we're going to take action. So where we are not taking action in these cases, the public comment period is actually not required. Also, there's no requirement for the length of that public comment period. We do by policy, we set our policy when we do an open meeting to a standard 30-minute period. And we limit each speaker to a particular time based on the interest of hearing as many commenters as possible. There have been occasions where the board has extended the public comment period when we deem that that's necessary. We have the authority to do that. And we could also extend the time, as long as we're being fair, to allow one commenter during one particular comment period to, as long as no one else is seeking the floor, we could go back and allow one individual speaker to speak again, to finish their comments, if the board desires that. So there's some flexibility concerning that. In the interest of trying to manage a committee meeting with loaded agendas, as we saw today, every committee had loaded agendas. I don't know that any committee totally completed their agenda without rushing through some items. If we had a 30-minute comment period, that would mean that the committee meeting would only have 30 minutes to do all of their work. And remember, we start these meetings at 6 o'clock, and we have to be in here at 7 o'clock. As you noticed, if those of you who were here when the meeting should have started, we were pushing it to get our committee members back into the meeting room to just start this public meeting. So that's in the interest of trying to give some discretion to the chairs. They can manage this as necessary in order to get the work of the committee done, because that's the real purpose of that meeting. If they want to use the entire 15 minutes, they can do that for public comment. And certain times, it's probably going to be in all of our interest to spend that time listening to the public. In other cases, we just may not be able to do it at all. So they have discretion not to even have a public comment period in the interest of time, to try to complete the work and the business of the committee so that they can bring back some recommendations to the board. So it's not an effort to try to remove the public's voice from the committee. It's an effort to try to manage our time and still get our work done. And we're doing that within the confines of the Sunshine Law, and it's a fine line, and we're making sure that that we don't violate any rules on that. So I'm going to pause here, and Mr. Pratt, any corrections to what I've said there?
No corrections, but a reminder that if an individual is not able to do public comment at a committee hearing, they have the opportunity to come to front of the full board to comment on those subjects that were discussed at the committee.
Excellent.
In the past, that is what had occurred as well, where when they had the committees, the public would come and speak in front of the full board about some of those topics. So it's not like you're cutting them off from not having any public comment. You're giving them they have an opportunity then, and then they also have the opportunity here to come and speak about that issue as well.
That is an excellent point, and I appreciate you making that point, because I forgot to do that. And it's also, we have 2 public comment periods per meeting. So on these meetings, we have 2 public comment periods, and you'll have a third opportunity before the board takes action during our business meeting to comment, and influence our vote. And of course, that second one at the business meeting is usually a summary comment or speak to anything else you would like to speak to there. So there's lots of time for that. Any additional comments on this policy? I'm sorry, the BOG. Let's see.
Are we taking them one by one or all of them? Both of them.
Oh, on everything that you submitted?
Some of my questions you answered. I was looking at some of the verbs that are in the functions of the standing committees. And my reasoning for that was, as the committee has board members, of course, but we also have administrators there. And I just wanted to make sure that I am clear, as well as board, on who is doing what. So when it said recommend, I appreciate that you clarified that that always means that you're recommending to the board and not recommending to administration. Just a couple of areas that I'd like the board to take a look at and consider that I think are really important. Some of these things I think are going to be really heavy lifts for a committee, particularly on those areas where it says to analyze data. Analyze student performance data. Anytime I see the word analyze, that's more than just let's listen to what the administration tells us and make our own judgments. It's really, really digging in. So, we want to think about who's doing the analyzing. Is it that the administration is going to report to you the data and give you a report for you to review and for you to monitor? So I would just ask the board to take a look at every time you see the word analyze and make sure that you are comfortable doing that work as it's stated. On page 4 of 11, I think this is a really important, that I really want the board to consider, where it says monitor and consult on individualized education programs and all variances. You cannot consult on IEPs. They are legal documents. You can't monitor them either. They are confidential, and they cannot be discussed. What you can monitor, perhaps, are the special education programs that we have in our district. So I would encourage the board to change that from individualized education programs to special education programs. It is.
That was on page 4. And you said
page 4 of that's what I have. Page under Educational Excellence Committee.
Program review.
Program review.
Something got wonky when I printed this out.
Well,
here it
you got
is.
2 versions.
What's that?
You got 2 versions of the BOG, so make sure you got the same
versions.
version as she's on.
Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah, I just
Yep,
found it here.
I have that highlighted. The board has no say in IEPs at all. So
let me address that one, because I commented back to you on that. I understand the committee is not authorized to violate law, and they cannot violate the law any more than the administration can violate the law. So you could ask for the individual IEPs, and you're not going to get them.
Right.
So my response back is the committee will have a need to know how and when the district is using IEPs and what resources are being committed to support them. As the committee matures in their understanding, the goal is for them to provide awareness to the board. So if for example, right now, I don't know how much the board knows other than maybe a rough percentage of what we spend on IEPs. And so that puts us at a disadvantage as far as what the school district is spending their money on. Now, some of these IEPs are going to be required by law. Some of them are discretionary as far as when we apply.
No.
None of them are discretionary
No.
whatsoever?
No.
Not
No.
a single IEP is discretionary?
I mean, we work as a team to, if we suspect or a parent suspects that a child may have some sort of a disability, then an assessment is done by certified professionals. Our school psychologists do those assessments. Principals don't do it, teachers don't do it. If the school psychologist, through the assessment, determines that that child has a disability, they are entitled to an IEP. We don't get to say you're not getting one, because it just doesn't work that way. Medical professionals can also give us diagnoses that entitles students to IEPs. So we don't, the only discretion that we have is we work with the parent to determine what that child needs to give them the appropriate, a FAPE, free and appropriate and least restrictive environment.
So that's where the discretion lies, though. It's with the professionals.
Right, but the board has no say in that whatsoever. And what I can share with you is I can share with you numbers of students. I can share with you the types of programs that we have in our school district. I can tell you what the rules and regulations are for those programs. I can tell you how much they cost. I can tell you how we're staffing them. But it's just not appropriate for a board to be discussing the IEPs.
Okay.
I think you will achieve what you're looking for by saying special education programs.
So
You already approved a number of programs that we provide special ed students that we've done over the last couple of months, contracts with groups if we need to use them, if not. And, Dr. Hauk has indicated during those presentations that this is something that we have to have because this is what has been determined.
Mm-hmm.
We really have no choice in those. That is what either parents requested, an advocate has requested. It's what a determination is required of you. So you see those and you make that determination, but there's you should not know of anyone who has one. We're not allowed to release any information on who has an IEP. So it's really restricted on what can do, because that is an educational record that we can't release that information on.
So you can talk about the concept, the program itself, but you cannot talk about the
Yeah,
individual program.
what are you offering internally? Very similar, like we have discussions about what the LIU provides us, what we take back from the LIU, but we can't tell you which students are in each one, but we can tell you what programs we're going to be providing, and the committee can look at those programs. Very similar to when we took all the programs back from the LIU and doing them here.
Right, basically anything to deal with an individual is
Right.
off limits.
Correct.
Yeah, so that part I think we understand, and so maybe there's a better way to word this.
I think the special education program would be,
This
you have no
monitor.
right to monitor IEPs.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we replace the words individualized educational programs with special education programs?
I suggest you go with Dr. Hauk's suggestion.
Okay. So we would change the word individualized to special.
Yeah, and I think you'll get the information that you're looking for.
Well, I know that I triggered a response when I said discretion, because I know from one perspective there's no discretion, but you have I know that have had conversations before whether someone's going to go to a particular one institution or another institution. You've got discretion on some of those that you select.
That's the IEP team. There isn't any one individual in our district who can make that determination. It's made as a team that includes the parent. And I think I've given you examples where the school team is recommending a certain placement and the parent says, no, I don't agree to that. They can do that because it has to be a team decision. So I'm not sure that what the board's involvement would be in any of that at all.
So that particular issue, I think there is no role for the board on. But to be aware of the overall programs and what kind of obligations that the district is incurring, that's the objective here, so that there's some awareness from the Educational Excellence Committee of how we may be able to synergize and find better ways to do this. And one of those ideas I know was recently brought forward is to opening up another special education class here to reduce our reliance on some other organizations.
Right. So again, I think the term special education programs will be suitable
Okay. I think that's a good idea. All right, continue.
Just a couple of other minor things on page 5. It references Act 45. Act 48, I'm
Act
sorry.
48, yeah.
Monitor the alignment of professional development with district goals and PDE requirements. Example, Act 48. There are a lot of PDE requirements, but Act 48 is, the only requirement is the number of credits that teachers have to acquire. They have to do 180 hours, but it does not, Act 48 itself doesn't tell us what that professional development has to be. So I would just eliminate that and stick with PDE requirements.
I don't have any, as I stated back to you, I can agree to that. It was in parentheses anyway.
And then the other thing that I had questions about was the strategic plan committee. I'm not sure I quite yet understand the board's vision for the strategic planning committee and how it interplays with the comprehensive plan. I think at one point they used to call it the strategic plan, and now it's called the comprehensive plan. Same thing. I feel like it changes every year, but we have to do it every 3 years. There are certainly things that are mentioned in this document that we don't do in the comprehensive plan, like operational efficiency and community engagement necessarily. So I think we just have to be careful about the interplay between those two. What I don't want to see is this district having a comprehensive plan and then having a strategic plan that has different things in it and too much for us to keep track of, especially with regard to the academic enhancing educational outcomes. So we'll just have to clarify that. But, recommending strategic goals, no, I'm sorry, that wasn't it. The mission vision, where was that statement?
It's under the second bullet of the strategic planning committee. Set and periodically reaffirm the district.
Yes. So where it says set and periodically reaffirm the district's mission, vision, and core values. That is the first exercise that is done every 3 years when we do the comp plan. Every 3 years, we set or affirm the mission, vision, and core values. That is done in a very large committee of about 40 people, of board members, administrators, teachers, students, community members, and business owners. I think that kind of covers it. And this past time, we decided to change the mission, vision, and the core values. They may not change, but this committee is not going to be able to set the mission, vision, and core values because that's done through the comprehensive plan.
Okay, let me go back to the general statement about the committee, and this is what I commented back. And this Google Docs has the ability to comment back and forth, and so she had written the question in there, and so I answered back on the Google Docs. Just like many of our committees, I think this committee is going to have to mature in their awareness and their expertise before the committee becomes effective. The intent is to push against the tendency for divisions of organizations, such as we have natural divisions, the board, the committees, the administration, to form stovepipe mentalities that pursue division success at the cost of the overall organization. The committee cannot supplant the comprehensive planning process, but it should support and enhance it. And so specifically, when you talk about the mission, the vision, the core values, and that type of thing, that is actually set in the comprehensive planning process.
Yes.
I understand that, but that whole entire process is facilitated not by the board, but it's facilitated by the administration itself.
Correct.
So the super influencer of that whole process is going to be the administration. So if you write a really nice mission, vision, and value statement, and you bring it in there, it's kind of like painting the canvas first, and then and other people can come back and make some changes to that. But you've got super influence on on that statement.
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Do you feel, is it your understanding that I write the mission statement and then the committee? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I don't think anybody, and I wouldn't do this, wouldn't show up with a draft of your own.
No.
Prepared.
Right.
Right. So you're prepared to do that. If you ask the average business person, did you bring a draft for the mission, vision, value statement? They're probably not.
No,
Most people are not going to bring that to the
We
meeting.
draft that cooperatively and collaboratively, and everybody that was in that room provided input. And in fact, I think we had, I think I might have put them into groups, and they all kind of, what do you want to see in this vision statement? And I asked them, what are some key items that you think should be in our vision statement? And they did that in groups, and then we came together, and I think we might have even voted at some point on which ones that we liked the best. So it wasn't the administration writes a mission statement, and here you guys tell me if you like it. It was written by all of those representative stakeholders. That's just the way it's supposed to be done. So I don't know why we would transfer that responsibility over to a board.
The thought here is that, so this committee is not going to be made up of just board members. You've got your administrators.
All of the stakeholders.
Right. No, I'm talking about the
Oh,
strategic planning committee.
Right.
As you work through the process of meeting on a recurrent basis, when you're trying to keep the mission, vision, core values, you're going to be following what that comprehensive plan says. But there needs to be some discussion somewhere along the way with people that are working this. What do we need to change about this? And because the rest of the community is going to come into this cold every 3 years when we go to set this mission, vision, and values. As you have people meeting, for example, some of the things that were discussed, there's a lot of students that get towards the end of the year and they're not ready to graduate. So because our mission and vision values say we're going to try to help every student succeed, every member of that team is working towards that end to help every student graduate. That's driving their activity. But that's not a perfect example, but there may be something about this that we can state or recommend when you go into that next comprehensive planning process.
Wouldn't you want to do that through the board members that are on the steering committee?
Well, the problem there is you only meet once every 3 years, and
Well, we can't write a mission statement every year.
Yeah, I understand that, but there's no accumulation in an even sense of people dealing with this on a recurrent basis. You're going to have some of the members of the board who just got elected to the board. You're going to have some members on there with 20 years of experience. What I'm saying is that you can roll forward with an accumulation of recommended changes to the vision and to the mission that might enhance us. And I know we're spending a lot of time on that one bullet, and I'm not going to die on this hill, but the focus of this committee would be much, much broader than that. Reaffirming the strategic direction is only one piece of that. Analyzing and forming, data, pulling in all the factors in these other bullets, that's something else that we may want to do. The goal is to drive us towards continuous improvement and not just interval improvement. So that's the only reason that this is included in here, is not to supplant or replace that comprehensive planning process, but to enhance it. So that every member, because we've been talking about this recurrently, can participate in a more informed nature. But like I said, I don't intend to die on the hill concerning that one thing, because there's enough other things for this committee to do other than just address that one
Yeah,
point.
I think my concern is that the comprehensive plan is intended to have input from all the stakeholders. They all analyze the data. They all look for strengths. They all look for areas that we need to improve. And I feel like this is going to give way too much power for the board to do whatever they wanted with the comprehensive plan, and thus eliminating the input that we received from all of the stakeholders. I'm not sure I'm quite following your line of thinking, other than to say the mission and vision and the core values are written in the comprehensive plan by the Comprehensive Planning Steering Committee. That is the first requirement that PDE has. So if you want to do this, you can do it, but I still have to submit that comp plan with the mission, vision, and core values statement, and I'm not going to be able to continually revise them other than every 3 years.
No,
So I will
I'm not
always
suggesting that, is that you, through the course of that 3-year interval, that this committee collects recommendations for perhaps a new statement or, you know, a new direction on some of these things, or enhancements, rather than, okay, we're going to do this now for, how long does that process take? 45 days or something like that?
what process?
Comprehensive plan.
To write it?
No, when you meet it with the public.
The steering committee, we
Yeah.
meet several times through the year.
So how much time are the participants going to spend on these issues?
We meet several times for, I don't know the number of hours, but it's however long it takes for us to get it written. But we do it all year long.
Okay.
Because it's due in March and we start in the fall. And we're going to have to, it's 2026 is when our comprehensive plan expires. I am uncomfortable with this committee writing the parts of the comprehensive plan, because the way it is now.
I don't
or
think that's
even-
the intention. And I wanted to say, like, this only helps the board be more collaborative with the administration in the vision and everything else going on in the district. I'm not looking at it as the board's getting more authority to do something that the administration has been.
But if you are saying you're going to set and you are going to periodically reaffirm, then you're writing the district vision and mission statement. That's what that means.
I think that looking at it now, maybe we need to reword some things, but I think the overall idea of this committee is to be more in touch with where's the district at, where is it heading based on
Yeah,
what
and
we have set as mission vision.
Yeah,
and
I don't object. I don't object to the committee at all.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that what's written in here
Yeah, I
is
think
accurate.
as we talk about it, like, just, let's see, maybe some words need change, but I don't think that the committee is trying to replace the process that PDE has put into effect in the school districts at all. It's just adding to our ability as a board and administration to work together to see how are we doing in this? Can we talk more about it throughout the years instead of this one lump time frame where we got to add it to everything else that's going on in the school year. And then it's like we don't really get to invest the amount of energy and time that maybe it could have in that moment.
And there
That's
are
all.
lots of bullets on here that I think are great and give us that. But I'm pointing out some that I just don't think are appropriate, because this committee should not be setting the district's mission, vision, and core values. That should be done with the entire community represented by 40 different people.
I think in light of what you said, that we strike the word set and that bullet starts with periodically reaffirm the district's mission, vision, core values, and long-term priorities.
Yes.
Agreed, set should be eliminated. I was thinking in my head possibly, like, evaluate adherence to the district's mission, vision, and core values. That's it.
And I think that's in.
It's sort of just an evaluation, like, how are we doing kind of process, not any
Yeah,
kind
I
of
love the
procedural.
purpose
No
to provide
procedural.
long-term continuous oversight of the district's vision, mission, and strategic priorities. I love that wording. That, I think, is appropriate.
I'm really confused, because a strategic planning committee to me is a large group of people, right? Not just the board. Isn't that what we're talking about? That
Well, the
this-
comprehensive plan is a large group of people.
Right,
That-
and that's the same thing as the strategic planning committee, correct?
No.
No.
So where you're a committee chair of your committee, this would be, have another committee chair with other members, and we would periodically, maybe not every month like this one, you know, the three that reported out tonight. This group would meet maybe 2 or 3 times a year, 4 times a year, quarterly or something like that, and perform their function. Having a broader goal than just being focused on curriculum or being focused on facilities and safety and that type of thing. It's just to keep, this is kind of keeping our eye on the long-term point on the horizon that we're trying to drive towards.
So that we're not just talking about the comprehensive plan once in that 3-year cycle. We're talking about it continuously.
Well, since we were elected on the board, what was that, about a year and a half ago, we haven't really been involved in the comprehensive plan process yet. That's going to start this fall, right? Didn't you say it was this fall or is it next fall?
It's due March 2026.
Yeah, so we'd have to start it this fall.
I think. I'm going to have to double check that,
Yeah, yeah.
actually.
Okay, so the point being is that once that process is done, the board's basically out of it, and then they execute it for the rest of the time. Execute it, monitor it, comply with it, however you want.
And again, the board is involved in the writing of the comprehensive plan. Always has been.
Mm-hmm. And they will
It
still be.
wasn't this board, but it was the previous board because of when it was written.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding that you're thinking 2 different committees. You're thinking the committee that is going to meet.
This is going to be a committee underneath this board. The comprehensive plan process is a committee that's required by law that you know, we participate in, but it's not a committee to this board.
So you're suggesting that this be a committee to the board?
This is going to be a standing committee to the board, just like the other one that, what was the other, the Policy and Governance Committee as well, which we haven't really talked about, but the same type of thing. So we would have 5 committees, 3 that are meeting regularly and, you know, short intervals. The Policy and Governance Committee and the Strategic Plan Committee would not necessarily have to meet as frequently, but as needed, but definitely periodically to, like I said, for the strategic planning, to keep that eye on the point on the horizon where we're trying to drive towards, make sure we're on track, referencing what our requirements were when the comprehensive plan came out. So the last part is, there weren't any comments on the Policy and Governance Committee, but the purpose of this committee is to review, develop, and recommend district policies and governance practices that support legal compliance and operational effectiveness. The bullets are all there, but the general idea is right now we are, I would say, probably 97% reliant on PSBA. We're still, as long as we're subscribed, the board is elected to do that, we will still continue to rely on them heavily, but this board will be collaborating with, I should say this committee will be collaborating with each other, which is comprised of the members of the board and the members of the administration, to basically to put a fine-tooth comb over the policy recommendations that are coming to us and see if that's what we want to do as a board. Because once it's voted on and approved, it's not PSBA's policy anymore, it's our policy. And we can't complain about PSBA policy or anybody else's policy when we are the ones voting on it. So that this Policy and Governance Committee would help us to be able to know what we're approving when we approve it, and to keep our eye on the ball. And under the heading of governance, this committee may say, that's too many committees. Let's eliminate that committee. They can't function effectively. So it might have been an idea that we were going to try to do, but it's not working. Or issues that that we're dealing with, say, for example, on the Resources Committee, the budget is enough for that committee. Maybe we need another committee just to deal with HR or something like that, or reassign that HR resource over to another committee. So they would be making recommendations as far as how we operate as a board. All right. So any further questions, or do we cover that ad nauseum? Okay. All right. So let's go, that was policy's first reading. So the one, just as a quick recap, we agreed under the strategic, well, let's start with the Educational Excellence Committee. We agreed to change individualized to special. So it won't be individualized educational programs, it will be special education programs. And then we also agreed to strike under the monitoring of professional development initiatives, to strike what's in parentheses, the EG Act 48, since that is self-governed by the teachers themselves. And we also agreed to strike the words under the strategic planning, strike the words set and under the bullet that talks about periodically reaffirming the district's mission, vision, core values, and long-term priorities as reflected in the comprehensive plan. Were there any others?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Did you want to keep the word analyze? I was thinking back to the curriculum, the Educational Excellence Committee, sorry. There is analyze student performance data, and
I mean, I don't object to that word. I want the board to think about that and think about whether or not that's going to be too heavy of a lift for you to do the analyzing of the data. And that's something that we do anyway.
I know we looked at data. Did we analyze it? I can't.
Well, I'm sorry, we do.
You do, yes. Yes, I'm saying
You
my
do, the board
committee,
really is not.
the committee did not really, I wouldn't say analyze it.
That's a very time consuming to analyze data. You know, it's a heavy lift.
So is it monitoring student performance data? Is it?
We could easily say monitoring. Analyze, it's discretionary as to what the committee wants to do, whether it's a deep dive, which is going to be that heavy lift she's talking about, or whether it is whatever we have available to us, considering the time and the resources that the committee has. You could do a shallow dive into that. As shallow as necessary, you're still kind of analyzing it to this is one of the things that we talked about during the superintendent search process was, how do we know how well our school is performing? And that's something that is a difficult thing for me as an individual member to get a handle on due to my lack of expertise in the field. I'm completely relying on the administration. I think many other board members may feel the same way. But if it's one of our bullet items, that reminds us to let's continually look at how are we doing on PSSAs and what does that mean? Because there's a context for PSSA scores, and same thing with Keystones. But any other benchmark that we may select is how are the schools doing? Because it depends on who you talk to. We're doing outstanding and amazing to we're failing our kids. I mean, so we want to get away from that kind of conversation. Let's get back to objective data, take a look at it so that the board knows how we're doing. And right now, I don't personally believe that we as a board know how we're doing as a school system. Most of it's anecdotally based on community experiences, parents' experiences getting shared with us and what we generally feel or what we see on another tool. And I'll go back to a very pointed contention that was made with something that I had read previously related to USA Today's analysis of schools.
U.S. News and World Report.
U.S. News, yeah, U.S. News and World Report. That's, I'll take that correction. Maybe that's not the best tool to use. But this committee will help us with getting to what are the best tools to use in collaboration with the administration. Because if the administration knows how well we're doing because they're using metrics, then we need to know what they're using so we're on the same sheet of music.
I agree. I just know the amount of time. In that hour, we don't get as much discussed as what you hope to.
Right. Yeah.
So did we analyze student performance data? I would have to say no, we didn't. We discussed it, we reviewed it, but we certainly didn't narrow it down and
We're not there yet, yeah.
I would
use the word look.
Yeah, we looked at it, yeah. That's
How about review?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, all right, anything else on this? Okay, let's go to the second public comment period, agenda item 8.01. This will be 2 minutes per speaker. Anyone seeking to make public comment? Okay.
Spring Davidson again. I just wanted to make a couple of comments about our committee meeting today because it was an excellent one, and I think we were the late ones, so we were the ones who went. But Mr. Fluke said that his team saved $8,600 on the water heater and $6,000 to $8,000 on the installation because they did it themselves. And so they were busy running meetings, and I was busy taking notes, so I just had a pen in my hand. And I don't know how we need to better bring back things from committees, but the questions about have you considered grass instead of turf, all those things were talked about during the committee meeting. And so I don't know how, without spending an hour, we sort of give you the Reader's Digest version of that committee meeting well. And I thought Heidi did a great job, and she took as long as our meeting took because it took a long time. But we still didn't obviously get to everything. So maybe we just need to figure out how to, I don't know, tell better what happened. But I certainly don't want the committee meetings to be a replication. Then we have to sort of do it all again when we come back here. That's not the point of the committee meeting, I think. So just, it's, these are new still, I think, and there are things to be worked out, that's all. But I did want to, while we're giving high fives around, that Mr. Fluke's team saved us a whole bunch of money was an excellent thing. Thank you. And made a better job of it. And, we now have redundancy in a system that we didn't before. So that's great.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Anyone else?
Doug McGurn, I signed in. I think it was asked earlier, who rates these policies? Again, I know this is a first meeting, but obviously Director Miller, it seems like you weren't aware that these were even brought up for discussion tonight.
No.
I mean, to me, it's confusing because I see a lot of blank stares and communication between Dr. Hawk and President Connolly. And again, I've been in public finance for 30 years. If we had to rewrite our mission policy every 6 months or have a board come to us, I mean, we've done it 2 or 3 times, and I understand, our direction is bigger than what is happening in the schools, but you're putting a lot of pressure back on the board by micro managing all these committees, and I feel it's unnecessary. I mean, who knows who's going to be here even next year? I mean, you may not even be here in a couple years, which brings me to why I'm here tonight. I want to bring to the board a serious matter that involved an officer of this board, a member of this community, members of this community. Citizen was forced to serve a leader of this board a cease and desist order resulting from an altercation that took place on school grounds at a school event earlier this spring. It is my understanding that the board officer confronted this individual verbally accosting him over comments made on social media. When asked if school grounds were the most appropriate place for this to occur, this board officer indicated that he would address the issue anywhere he felt necessary, and he seemed to want to escalate the situation. This conduct is unbecoming of any board member, let alone one in a leadership position. You are here to serve as positive role models, not for our students, but for our community, and this board leader failed in this regard. This type of behavior is also direct violation of board policy regarding the safety of individuals attending school events. Video surveillance has been obtained by the accuser to further validate this claim. This board must take this matter seriously and conduct a thorough investigation. You cannot hide this anymore from the citizens of this community who are now publicly aware of this incident.
Time's up.
At the very least, this individual should be removed as their position as officer.
Your time is up,
And
sir.
consequences for their inappropriate actions. We hold our students and staff accountable for their
Cut the
behaviors.
microphone, please.
And now you must do.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else seeking to make public comment? All right, public comment period is closed. This takes us to comments and observations from the board members. Section number 9, agenda item 9.01. Let's see, Dr.
Yeah.
Fulmerton.
Yeah, bear with me. I have a prepared statement to read. I want to set the record straight about why I voted the way I did on policy number 216, students' records, name, sex, and gender identity, and policy number 253, sex-based distinctions in multi-user privacy facilities. For the record, I voted no to the policies because they were written by the Independence Law Center. I will always vote no on any policy written by the Independence Law Center. The Independence Law Center does not represent the Dover Area School District. Mr. Pratt from Saxton and Stump represents this district. We should only be using policies written by him or by PSBA, period. If we need a policy for anything, Mr. Pratt can write one. Without getting into detail, Mr. Pratt was willing to advise us on these particular issues. Using the Independence Law Center was unnecessary, potentially could cause lawsuits, and I think politically motivated. That's why I voted no. If people in the community continue to spread lies about me regarding this issue, I will be taking legal action. Let me be clear. I'm on this board for the students, the staff, and the taxpayers. Those have always been my priority, and this will continue to be my priority. I brought this up. Terry Amick agrees with this and read it. There are individuals going out and going to homes, giving out business cards with their names, their phone numbers on. They are misleading individuals as to why I voted for these policies and why Terry Amick voted against them, I should say. I have contacted an attorney in regards to what was said. Two of the individuals that were contacted, one used to do psychology work for the state of Pennsylvania, and another was a teacher who had 40 years in the classroom, both well-educated individuals. One of them led these individuals by asking very leading questions and could not get answers out of them when they were very specific. They are intentionally misleading people into believing that I believe that boys should play in girls' sports, be in girls' bathrooms, be in girls' locker rooms. That is absolutely untrue. And I say that based on one big factor, and this is a personal factor for me when it comes to kids. A friend of mine has a girl who is in 6th grade. She is of slight stature. When I say that, if she is 4'11", maybe 5 foot, and weighs 75 pounds. I have a grandson who is in 6th grade, never flunked, not held back. He's 5'10" and weighs over 200 pounds. You know, this kid plays in North Baltimore football leagues. This kid he is 12. He plays on a lacrosse team that is made up of 14 and 15-year-olds because they took him off these younger age teams. I could not imagine putting him up against a girl of that size. That is why I would never vote for anything that would allow a boy in a girl's locker room, sports, or anything else. I needed to set this record straight, but I seriously am looking into taking legal action against some people who've done this. I have witnesses to their conduct. And I just wanted to put that on record because they've used both my name and Terry Amick's name in this. Thank you.
Dr. Whitmer?
going to pass.
All right, Director Meese?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Director McKinney?
Not much to talk about since sports is wrapping up. The spring sports night is tomorrow night. So you can come out and see the achievements of our athletes over this last season. Got out to the jazz and concert band the other night. Let's see, Saturday? Went to a concert, and they did exceptionally well. They had a good variety of music. There were some awards given out, lots of awards for the seniors that are graduating, going on to further higher education, and Mr. G actually got an award from the students too, so that was nice to see. They love him, and so that's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Mace?
You reminded me of
I have so
something.
much-
I don't know. I went on the Boston trip with the Renaissance group, and they were amazing. They really were. The kids were so well behaved. They were punctual. They were dressed the way they needed to be dressed, on time. I mean, it was 4 days of constant movement and jam-packed schedule. Some terrible weather, some great weather, but it was, I mean, our kids were amazing, like seriously. I was so impressed. And I just went, I wasn't a chaperone or anything, I just attended because I signed up at the beginning of the school year because I didn't think Jackson would have any friends, and I didn't want him to go to Boston and not have friends, so I'm like, I'll go with you. But I'm so glad I went. It was amazing.
It was Friday.
It was Friday? Oh,
Went through
because
the-
the kids were,
I believe it.
oh, you know it's Friday.
I have had something to do every evening at the school, so it's, it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Burnout, school year burnout.
The events, you reminded me that.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Hauck, you have anything?
I have a lot, but I'm going to save it for my report for next week.
Okay, it has been busy. All right,
Yes, it has.
Director Kindig?
Reminder, Tax Commission, EIT Tax Commission meets Thursday night, correct?
5:30.
5:30.
It is.
Yes. And to make sure that everybody knows that the Tax Study Commission is taking public comment on Thursday evening about their work that they've been doing on the possibility of increasing EIT and making the shift on homestead farmstead. So I highly recommend all public to attend, give their opinion. If you need information on what the EIT has been doing, the PowerPoint presentations that they've been receiving are online. And great information from Dr. Tim Schramm from PASBO, the School Boards Officials of Pennsylvania, and it gives you an idea of what they're looking at. And they will be taking public comment and deliberating more on what they're going to be possibly recommending to the board come June.
Very good. All right. good
I'm
enough?
done.
Okay. All right, Director Miller?
Nothing really, just Teacher Appreciation Week. I really want everybody to know how much we do appreciate the teachers, and through our curriculum meeting, I'm sorry, I keep saying curriculum, educational excellence, I think we are seeing just what people really are doing and how hard they are working, so I appreciate everything that everybody's doing, so thanks.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna go ahead and do mine this week to save time for next week.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be.
You
a-
have
a
plans
long-
next week, right?
What's that?
You have plans next week?
No, I'll be here.
Okay.
It's just gonna be I think it's gonna be a long meeting. So Rob and I didn't attend the Dover Eagle Foundation meeting because we were at counties at a track and
For
field
track.
meet. Yep. I would like to say that we have a lot of district qualifiers going to SHIP which is impressive because it's very difficult to make it to district. So I'm sure Coach Brandstatter and the rest of the coaches are excited about that. I just want to give a shout out. He does an excellent job. Everything's runs smoothly. He keeps the kids in check, all the coaches. The track and field is really doing well, and it's just, I think it's a highlight to our school as to the good things that it does for us. And then my son received an award from the Dover Alumni Association. It was something that they held on a Sunday afternoon. I just wanted to give a shout out. If you're interested in joining a great organization, I think that's one of them. Our family just had a fantastic time. They had food. They had a bidding on what's that, white elephant gifts, and one of the students did go home with a bottle of wine, but by accident. But no,
That was not a school function.
I know. I'm just kidding.
They're an outside
It was her dad who gave her the money, but she voted on it, and it was funny. So it wasn't anything bad. She took it to her dad. We also experienced Dover Prom, which I'd also want to say the junior senior reps did an excellent job, and commend the staff. It was a great time. It was very open, airy. It was at the Agricultural Museum of York. So that was really a nice event. I thought it was, not that the Valencia was, that year was less, but the Valencia is a little darker and not as open. This was just a really nice time. So I wanted to give a shout out to the junior and senior class for that. And awards night for sports is tomorrow at 6. And last but not least, I wanted to touch on what you said about the teacher staff appreciation. So my wife and I, she wrote this, but I just wanted to read this real quick. As dear teachers and staff, as Staff Appreciation Week has passed, this is written before, but it's passed, we wanted to take the moment to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Over the years, many of you have played a role in shaping our children's lives, just not academically, but personally. You have taught them lessons far beyond the pages of a textbook. How to be kind, how to work hard, how to believe in themselves, and how to get back up when things are hard. Your patience, encouragement, and unwavering commitment have left a lasting imprint that words can never fully capture. Please know that the seeds you have planted in their hearts will continue to grow for years to come. You have made a difference in their lives and in ours, and we are forever grateful. Thank you for being the kind of people who show up, care deeply, and give so much of yourselves to every student you meet. You are appreciated more than you know. With heartfelt thanks, Tammy and I, or the Hogan family. So I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. We really appreciate the teachers and staff here. Next week, maybe it'll be nothing from me.
Did you mention the prom?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, and you left out that Caleb Hogan was named prom king.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah, congratulations to the prom king and prom queen.
that was a great picture. I appreciate you sending that. Congratulations to Caleb. He's having a great senior year, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Can you remind me, since we said the king, the queen's name? Lydia. Lydia Heckert. You got to be fair, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. All right, so the future announcements, we have a board meeting May the 20th at 7 p.m. And is there any last minute comments, concerns?
Yes, I'm going to request a 10-minute executive session immediately after this, and Mr. Perkins, I'd like you to stay, and Mr. Pratt.
Okay, we have a request for an executive session. Any objection to doing that? All right.
Personnel issue.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
Director Meese seconds.
Director Meek seconds the motion. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. As soon as the room clears, we'll go into